way, especially at those levels. But there's still certain guys who can elevate if you have a real, true, great changeup, and that's what he had going last night. He just didn't give Vanderbilt a whole lot to hit. I have to give him credit, and I know there's a lot of disappointment from the Vanderbilt players that they couldn't find a way to get more guys on base. They didn't threaten very much. They didn't have very many base runners the whole night. It was very uncharacteristic of them. And it seemed like every time they hit a ball squarely, there were probably 4 or 5 really hard ground balls they hit. Good, solid contact. They were right at the guy, especially they got the leadoff walk in the 9th. Daunic Keegan hits one right on the button, but it's a perfect double play ball. Couldn't have been a better double play ball. But that's like we were talking about with Tennessee. It's baseball.
Yep.
So this is a game, baseball, just like hockey. The best team doesn't always win. It's who's playing the best at the best time. Can you get the great pitching? Can you get the great goaltending at the right time? So you guys are right. I think NC State's got a great belief system going right now. They're playing their best baseball at the best time of the year. So now Vanderbilt, this is going to be the story, right? Up to this point in the postseason, it has been utilize your best 4 pitchers for the most part. And those guys have pitched the wide majority of the innings. Now to get where they want to go, it's going to have to be their 3 and 4 starters, and who knows who else to get them there, right? The depth of their pitching staff is going to be on the line right now. There's a lot of talent there, but their performances during the season have been flashes of brilliance, but not a lot of consistency. So that's going to be the story from here on out. But to win a national title, I think it's a great story. You got to get contributions from people beyond your top line guys. So that's going to be really interesting.
Stanford's facing the same issues. It's not like they're dealing with the same thing,
right?
So,
we're talking about one game tomorrow, right? It's one at a time. Same thing for Tennessee today. Got to play one good game, see where you're at, go on to the next game.
I mean, Stanford doesn't have that depth either, so they're going to be facing the same issues that Vanderbilt. I like Vanderbilt in this one. Stanford's dealing with the same deal. They don't have near the depth, and I think, quite honestly, Vanderbilt should win this game, just because I think they're the better team, and I think the Pac-12 is going to go 0 for 2.
But it's a baseball game, and it's one game, so you never know. But it starts by whoever gets to start. It's going to be a freshman that starts. It's going to be Patrick Riley, or it's going to be Christian Little. I don't know who he's going to go with. My guess is it would be Riley because he pitched game 3 in the regional. And that kid can be brilliant, and he can also be shaky. He's a guy that the first inning is everything. If he can find himself in the first inning, he can give you a good start. But he's had some very shaky first innings, so that will be something to look for from him tomorrow. And then obviously you got to get bats going.
Yeah, I mean,
can they win? Can they win 3 in a row? Yeah, the Vanderbilt can win 3 in a row to get to the finals, and then you have rest. Then you can start all over again. But it's going to be a tough road.
Yeah, I'm not as worried about that. I mean, Vandy's totally capable of winning 3 in a row, but you got to get the bats going.
No doubt.
That's what it's going to take to be able to do that. And you brought up the 9th inning. I mean, they had it looked like a rally was going, and you're right. It was one of those perfect, just on a rope double plays, and that takes the wind out of your sails. But I agree with you, Darren, that they are the better team. They should win, but then, like I said, you got to turn around. You got to play NC State again. It's a tough road, but they've been in situations like this before. Tim Corbin knows how to manage that, so I have no doubt that they will be ready to go. They'll shake this one off, and we'll see another great game tomorrow.
Well, for all the attention Kevin Kopp's got this season, rightfully so, this kid for NC State who started off as their starter and then they moved him to the bullpen to be their closer, Evan Justice, this kid has been lights out. I mean, lights out.
He has been really clutch. Like,
so
he
you can't hit him. And right now, I mean, he's as good as having Kevin Kopps as your closer, because if they're in the lead, he's proven. I mean, they talked about it last night. Ever since he's been changed to this role, and especially here during this entire run, you can't touch this kid.
Yeah, he closed out both games against Arkansas, the 2 wins they had to have, games 2 and 3, back-to-back days. Pretty impressive. And then was really good last night as well when he came in there. So it was just a well-pitched game. And Jack Leiter, they're going to have to do a lot of work to get him another chance to go out there. But you got to tip your hat, right? 122 pitches. I was surprised. Remember, we talked about it yesterday. He strikes out so many guys. The issue becomes the pitch count. And so after 7 innings, he had hit the 100-pitch mark. All of the announcers on the broadcast, me sitting at home, I'm sure you guys were thinking about it too. When he came back out to pitch the 8th, I was a little bit surprised that they stretched him a little bit, but he gutted it out and put another 0 on the board.
He was still throwing 96 in the 7th. So.
You know what? That was impressive because throughout the game, and Kyle Peterson, who was on the show last Friday, pointed out, for a lot of the game, his fastball was more like 92, 93, which is very low for him. We've seen him in Nashville 97, 98 for several innings. He didn't really have that heater, but when he needed it, like he got a reserve tank going. You guys saw it, right, in the 7th and the 8th. When he needed to reach back for a 96, he was able to do it. It was really impressive. He's an ultra competitor.
Do you think that maybe he took a little off of it early to preserve?
I don't know. I don't think so. What was working, you could see it. That was the best I've ever seen him at mixing. Like he was throwing more like let's go back to the no-hitter against South Carolina. It was almost all fastballs. Nobody could hit his fastball that day. Yesterday it was, I would say, and the NC State coach in his dugout interview pointed this out. He was like 40% breaking balls. And that's what it took last night to get the outs. But the scouts have to be just drooling with that performance that they saw, despite the loss. But that I would take about as impressive as you could be.
Look, they're both special. I get it. But if you're asking me to choose moving forward, I'd probably take Leiter.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think it's razor's edge.
It is. You're splitting hairs, but
I don't think there's a wrong choice.
Probably not. Probably not. But I don't know. I think it's kind of like the Trae Young trade that we talked about the other day. I mean, both sides win. So I think whoever takes one and whoever takes the other, probably both sides win.
So what is the deciding factor for you? If that's the direction you're gonna go, why do you go that way?
I don't know. I don't even know.
Is it a pressure thing?
No. I mean, gosh, everything I'm going to throw out there, you could probably counter and say Rocker could do the same thing. So Rocker's got the bigger frame, as we know. I don't know. There's just something about Leiter. I mean, obviously his dad, and how much
camera time did his dad get last night?
Oh my gosh!
Like, dude, give the guy a break.
Who was that sitting next?
It must be his sister.
I was going to say, was that his sister? Or is that
his?
Okay, because
I've seen pictures of his mom before. That wasn't his mom, obviously. No. I think that was. I'm just presuming his sister, but
okay.
She got just as much camera time.
I didn't hear if they addressed who it was sitting next to Al, and they kept showing them the entire game. I don't know. There's just something about him. His just makeup. He just looks like, I don't know. It's going to translate really well. But I think Rocker's going to translate
got the same thing. That's the thing. That's what I think has me always thinking. I don't know who these other guys they are considering. You were hearing a lot during the season they could go 1-2. Now there's less of that talk. They've listed like 4-5, 4-6, something like that. I'm like, who are these other guys that they're considering? I'm looking at it strictly from the perspective of here in Nashville watching those guys. But what would have me really confident as a scout is it's not just the stuff, but their makeup. You use the word makeup, Darren? They both have lights out A+ makeups, competitors,
and they've got families,
work ethic,
We've
families.
Talked about it.
Yes, all of that. They've got all of that working for them so that you can be totally confident that they're going to continue to drive to get better. I just think I'm just so impressed with both of them.
Remember when Mahomes burst on the scene? In fact, I even brought it up to Peter Laviolette when we were at Centennial.
Yeah, I remember
just
that.
Having
been there,
dynamic, growing up in a locker room, growing up with a father who played professional sports, and
you know what's expected of you.
Yeah,
you know what it takes.
Like you just can't tell me that they don't have an advantage over just a kid where their mom and dad just work their tails off to push them through whatever sport they're playing and spend all their money on their kid playing and try to get them to this level. And that's nothing against them. It's not a knock. It's just saying, how can that not be a huge advantage when these kids grow up, seeing how it's done at the highest level? That's their life. They don't know any else. They don't know anything else. So I just think it doesn't guarantee that you're going to be great, but I just think for the ones who are already, the makeup is there and all the tools are there. And then you have that dynamic at home and you have that, you grew up around that atmosphere. I just think there is the real edge to that. I would give them, you have to check that box and say, hey, that's important. But look, they're both spectacular, but we'll see how that, by the way, I thought the strike zone was a little questionable all night. I'll just be perfectly honest. I know it was working both ways, but I didn't love that guy's strike. I thought he was pretty inconsistent. I couldn't get a read on what the heck he was calling
just
strikes. It was like one time it's a strike, the next 2 times it's a ball, the next time same exact pitch it's a strike. It's like I just wanted a little bit more consistency. Like I said, I didn't think it really favored one or the other. I just saying in general, I didn't love his strike zone. I thought he was wildly inconsistent.
I've heard a lot of people talk about that, and my observation is this is just my theory. Having watched a lot of college baseball, and of course we watch a lot of Major League Baseball. The Major League, it's a credit to the Major League people. The Major League games, you see that rectangular outline of the strike zone. The umps are aware of it. The umps are trained over and over. That whole Quest Tech thing that started years ago. It is pounded into their heads how consistent that strike zone is and how good you have to be. College doesn't have that. Right? These are different umpires. These are not Major League umpires. They're going to miss more. And the pitching, especially at this level, is so dominant that those guys are around the strike zone. I just think you're going to see more inconsistency if you're used to watching Major League Baseball and then you watch college baseball, there's a difference. It is really, really hard to do it. So I didn't think it was any different than I've been watching all year long, to me. And I think if you watch other games in the College World Series, that game wasn't any different. I think that the Texas-Mississippi State game, for example, both teams. Was that a little out? Was that
I did
reaction?
Not like.
I thought it was the same thing.
I felt the same. Actually, I thought that game was worse than the Vanderbilt. I thought that game was worse.
But that's what I'm saying. These are the best umpires in college baseball that are getting these assignments. I just think you're saying there's a different level of Major League umpiring as opposed to the best college umpire.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm not saying somebody got hosed and it cost somebody. I'm just saying I have not been impressed with their strike zone because I just think like I said, I don't mind if you're calling strikes on the outside or you're calling strikes high or you're calling whatever, that whatever is your sweet spot that we may not agree with. But if you're consistent with that call, then I'm okay with it. I don't agree with it, but I'm okay with it. But it's when you get the same pitch at the knees and one time it's a strike and another time it's a ball.
That's hard.
The same pitch on the corner is a strike one time, it's a ball another time. That's what I don't like. I like figure it out. Like you're either calling it one way or you're not. But it's like you can't make up your mind. And so that's probably the problem.
Because then you'll know. You'll know where it is.
Yep. The other thing that is
some of those were high last night, and he was calling a strike.
There's also something about the catcher.
Yeah.
If you have a catcher that's really good at framing, CJ Rodriguez is an outstanding framer. I think there was a difference when he remember they pinch ran for him. You can see a difference. Some teams don't have a catcher that's nearly as good. I think you can sort of fool the umpire a little more if you have a good catcher back there. Major League Baseball has valued that now for a number of years. People have caught on to that. Now there's like stats for how many strikes you steal as a catcher. Again, the college game is not quite as refined that way, but a good college coach knows, hey, I've got a guy back there that's stealing strikes for me. That's a factor.
We'll come back. Dan Wolken, there was a big decision made yesterday. He's with USA Today. We'll discuss it with him on the other side. Darren, Daunic, and Chase. ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Listen to us talk sports out of our app. There are some positives.
How could you do this?
Single.
Release.
Tell us.
Bye. You're cut.
Day.
Outstanding cameo performance.
Just search The Game Nashville in your app store and download today. And keep it locked on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game.
It's soccer season in Tennessee. You want goals?
He takes it inside, outside, right foot. Great finish! What a goal!
You want saves?
Lifted high, into the hands of Joe Willis. He makes the catch.
You want big drama?
Took in and headed in. Delirium! It's Yonder Cadiz!
Then it's time to get in with Nashville SC Saturday, June 26th. Nashville SC is back at home against CF Montreal at 7:30 p.m. Tickets on sale now at NashvilleSC.com. Get in for the 2021 season.
Housing prices here are through the roof. That means you're probably sitting on a ton of home equity. Maybe it's time to turn that equity into cash you can use now. Hey, Willie Daunic here talking about Loan Pronto. Loan Pronto can refinance your loan at a super low rate, pay the closing costs for you, and get you a bunch of cash out. I mean, like tens of thousands of dollars. So don't just sit on that home's new value. Use it to pay off credit card. Use it to consolidate other debt. Use it to make your home even more valuable with a new kitchen or bathroom. Loan Pronto's all-digital platform makes it fast and easy. You can get a big check in 2 weeks. And if you act now, you can even skip your next 2 house payments. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Ask about the Loan Pronto zero-cost cash-out refi. Loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender. NMLS 1661781. Subject to lender approval. Zero-cost option not available on all loans.
The return to Nashville. Garth Brooks. For the first time ever, the tour coming to Nissan Stadium. Tickets on sale 10 a.m. Friday, June 25th at Ticketmaster.com/Garth Brooks. Saturday, July 31st, Nissan Stadium. Presented by Amazon Music.
This is Carl Sholin, St. Andrew Sewanee School Head of School, where we are currently accepting enrollment for our summer overnight camp. This is a great opportunity for children in grades 5 through 12 to get back to the fun of being kids. Learn more at sasweb.org.
ESPN's Turon Davenport breaks down the Titans like no other.
I want to see how much they put on Elijah Molden because that young man is a very intelligent player.
Catch TD Mondays at 11, Thursdays at 3, and Fridays at 8. Brought to you by Freedom Tire Guys. Plus, the Talking with TD podcast drops every Wednesday.
I think that's an example of playing beyond scheme.
Only on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, this is Mookie Betts. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Thank you, Mookie. After the Vanderbilt game last night, NC State, I was watching Dodgers and Padres. Saw Mookie, saw David Price pitching in the 7th inning for the Dodgers. Back here on Darren, Daunic, and Chase here on this gorgeous Tuesday here in Middle Tennessee. Let's say hello and good morning to Dan Wolken with USA Today. Big decision yesterday, the Supreme Court ruling on the NCAA case. And the Supreme Court telling the NCAA, you've been a bunch of bad boys. You're going to have to change the way you conduct your business. What did you make of yesterday's decision, Dan? It feels like after all these years, the NCAA just truly never thought, a decision like this would ever be made. But it looks like they may have to change the way they've been going about their business over decades.
Yeah, I take a sort of step back, larger view of things. I think the ruling, if you just limit it to what happened in the Supreme Court yesterday, it does not overthrow the NCAA or college athletics in a hugely meaningful way, because this was a ruling that came from a lower court. It was fairly limited in scope. It's certainly good for athletes. They're getting more. It's like another step. But it doesn't totally bring in what the NCAA would call pay for play. But what it does do, if you look at the language in the opinion and the concurring opinion from Judge Kavanaugh, it sets the table and almost even invites more litigation coming the NCAA's way. And the overall message and statement from the Supreme Court is, you are in violation of antitrust law. You are getting away with operating in a manner that is not consistent with other large entertainment industries. And that's where I think the big changes occurred. The NCAA has always said, hey, listen, we are special because we are tied to education. Yes, we do sports, but this is all about education and providing those opportunities. But I think what's happened now is it's not just the general public, it's also American institutions like Congress and the Supreme Court saying, yeah, we get that you are affiliated with colleges, but you are a multi-billion-dollar entertainment business, and you are not sharing that revenue with people who are crucial to producing that revenue, and that's wrong.
What do you think changed? I mean, you just kind of touched on it. Obviously, the money has changed. And look, I've said on this show many, many times, I've changed my stance over the years. We've been talking about this for a long, long time. And I used to say, hey, their scholarships and everything that they get is enough. But I've that's been long gone. I've changed because there's just too much money attached, and they deserve a slice of the pie. So other than the obvious, the money, is there another reason we got to this point today? Because it seems like it's been headed on this collision course for a good while.
Well, I think if you look at the course of history, what you find is that amateurism as a concept is basically dead. Like, it doesn't really exist anymore. If you go back in, the early 20th century, amateur sports were a bigger deal than pro sports, because you had like golf, the U.S. Open and the British Open. Those were not professional sporting events. They were for amateurs. Wimbledon and the U.S. Open in tennis, that was for amateurs. It was sports for the privileged elite class, and people who made money off playing sports were looked down upon. But you go over time, and 1968, tennis changes to a professional sport, what they call the open era. Eventually golf became a professional sport. You look at free agency in sports that were professional. You look at the Olympics saying professional athletes can participate. And over time, like at every step along the way, those sports didn't become less popular. They became more popular. And it's because nobody really cares if the athletes are making money or how much money they're making. They just want to be entertained. And college sports is the same thing. Like, I just think there's been this idea that the world would fall apart if you pay young people to be professionals. But in every other part of the world, in every other professional sport, and mainly we're talking about basketball, we're talking about soccer and some hockey, I guess, in other countries, like, you get paid as a professional when you're very young and you sign a contract, and like, that's just what you do. The fact that we've tied these enterprises to colleges and universities, no one else in the world does it this way. It's crazy. And yet it's sort of an accident of history, and that's not going to change. But the money's gotten so big, the enterprise has grown beyond what it was supposed to be initially, that you just sort of can't constrain capitalism to the extent that the NCAA has tried to.
I believe it's next week. There's already 6 states that have just said, hey, we're not going to wait around on your decision with what's going on with the NCAA and the Supreme Court. We're going to go on and say, hey, these student athletes are, allowed to make money. And Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, New Mexico, and Texas. Do you think this is kind of like the sports gambling? It was always taboo, and it was never going to happen. And heck, we could never have professional sports in Vegas, and we all know that's all laughable today. And now we've got sports gambling in Tennessee, and every day you wake up, it seems like a new state is saying, yep, okay, we're legal too. Is that where this is headed, the same thing? You're just going to keep reading more and more states are just going to say, whether you figure it out or you don't, or however long you're going to take, we're going to go on and say they can start making money now.
Yeah, I think ultimately it's just one of those things, like, people say, no, you can't do it, or it's morally wrong. And then you actually do it, or somebody does it, and then you figure out, like, yeah, this is fine. Like, this is not the end of the world. And that is part of a lot of different areas of our society, not even related to sports. People just sort of figure out, like, just because we've done something one way for so long doesn't mean that it's the preferred or the right way to do it. And you introduce a different concept, and people say, I can live with this. And it's going to be the same thing with college sports.
Talking to Dan Wolken. And Dan, before we get back to this issue, which is obviously a huge one going forward here, I want to just get a little history lesson from you. When you were at Vanderbilt, tell me your perspective of the Vanderbilt baseball program at the time. And did you ever cover games for the Hustler, maybe on top of a dugout in the press area?
Yeah, I don't have a huge recollection. I do remember covering games, but I don't have a lot of specifics. I mean, we're talking about, more than 20 years ago at this point. And the program was not very good. I mean, it was kind of a joke. They had terrible facilities. I believe the coach was Roy Mewburn, right? That was the
right.
The
that's what I was trying to figure out exactly what years you were there, Dan. But you were definitely pre-Corbin, so you would have seen the old McGugin Stadium. It's so funny to tell people about that now because we're going on close to 20 years that they've actually had a new park that is much closer to what you should have at that level at the SEC. But it was so far below standard back then.
Yeah, it was just a program that the perception was you can't win, right? Because at that time, and I'm not a big college baseball guy, but you had LSU and, all these other programs in the SEC that, seemed like they had all these advantages over Vanderbilt, which is obviously baseball is not a full scholarship sport. You're limited in certain ways. And I just don't think there was a vision in place for how you would actually win and compete against, the LSUs and the Mississippi States of the world, the Floridas of the world. And yet hiring Tim Corbin and figuring that out has obviously changed everything, along with investment and everything that they've put into it. But now, it is funny because, like I said, I don't follow college baseball that closely, but you do hear from people, they sort of, they sort of sneer at Vanderbilt baseball the way that maybe people sneer at Alabama football, just thinking, well, they've got it made. They've got all the advantages.
Right.
They've got the system rigged. They've got the system rigged for them. And yet people of my age and older certainly remember when it was completely the opposite with Vanderbilt baseball.
That's a good point. So, Dan, back to this. It would seem to me that if you really wanted to make a uniform change, a sweeping change, except that amateurism is dead, as you just pointed out, that you would have a good collective bargaining. I think there was some feedback about the decision yesterday, collectively bargain this. Do you think they can do that and make a good uniform system across the board, or is that impossible at this point?
I think in a way it's probably the only option for the NCAA that could keep the system somewhat intact. And I don't know exactly how it would work because you certainly have different kinds of schools. You've got public and private. You've got different state laws where unionization can maybe be a little trickier, but that may be an area where Congress could step in and help out a little bit. But to me, that's always been the easiest answer here, is just to say, listen, the athletes need to be represented by a union, and they need to sit across the table from the people who control the revenues and hammer out what this should look like, just like you do in the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NHL. And I don't know that it has to be a system where it's like a pro sport. I think you could come up with a system that says, listen, we're going to take a slice of all of these revenues and we're going to distribute them to all the revenue sports. I don't know what exactly what you do with non-revenue, but I'm sure you could come up with something for them as well. And I think Sonny Vaccaro's had this idea forever. You take all the revenue that comes from the marketing rights, that come from the television, that come from sponsorship. You put it together and you just take off a percentage and put whatever number of that percentage you want, and you just say we're dividing it up to every scholarship athlete across the board. And whether you get it during your career, whether you get it when you leave or whatever, that's yours, and that's fair, and that keeps competitive balance. That is what, to me, the easiest and best answer should be for college sports. That would not ultimately make this into something that people don't want it to be.
If it goes Wild West, right, as Darren was saying, just maybe each individual state goes one way and there's advantages for the colleges in that state. What are you worried about most as we try to make an adjustment here and adapt?
Well, look, I believe that in the end, a lot of the things that people are worried about are self-correcting. The market will sort itself out. And I think it's going to be the same thing with this name, image, and likeness stuff. I mean, there's going to be things at the beginning. It's going to be a little bit messy, but ultimately it'll settle in, and it's not going to ultimately change much of anything other than people are going to have some money, and the people who do mostly will be people who are at the peak of their earning power. The guys who are going to go on and make millions and millions of dollars as early round draft picks in whatever sport, that's not, to me, going to be that big of a deal. I think where this is going to be great for these athletes are people who are superstars in college but are probably not going to be big-time pros. And this is their opportunity to cash in. And I think it's going to be great for them. And I don't see a negative to it. And I think the same thing will be the case if we kind of, as you said, kind of go Wild West. Because the reality is, when you are a high school kid going to college, your future is very unpredictable. I mean, it's unpredictable going from college to pros, but it's, multiply that unpredictability times 10 when you go from high school to college. And I think ultimately what you would find is that the market would say, yeah, there's this group of people for whom there's huge, huge value. But for everybody else, and I mean, we're talking about the 98% here, what they're going to become in college is so unpredictable that it's not necessarily worth these massive investments that people think might want to be made. So that's kind of the way I look at it, is it would just ultimately kind of sort itself out, and everything would survive.
We're talking to Dan Wolken, USA Today. So the thing that I've kind of been curious about with all of this is, do you think that this has any impact at all on one and dones in basketball? That come out, they play the 1 year because that's the rule, and then they go to the NBA. I know they're not going to make the same type money that they make here that they would in the NBA, but could you see guys that maybe hold on a little bit longer because of this?
Certainly possible. I think the name, image, and likeness stuff is helpful because it will allow a family to look at a set of options, which now includes the G League. It includes this overtime elite league. There's overseas and one other startup league that's offering money, and it'll give people a range of options to compare. And if name, image, and likeness money is in that mix, then that is more to think about, because ultimately I do think the exposure and the ability to play on ESPN and play in the NCAA tournament adds value for kids, and not just kind of, hey, we grew up watching this and I want to be a part of it. It's literally, you go to college and become a big time player, you are more marketable going into the pros. There's no debate about that. So I think it just gives people more to compare and more to think about, and everyone's going to have different things that drive their choices, and I don't think it's all going to go in one direction. But I think certainly for college basketball to be competitive for the top talent, 17 and 18-year-olds, you need NIL, and you need maybe even some other mechanisms to say, hey, listen, here's what we can offer.
So let's play this game, and you can take it with college football, college basketball, whatever. 10 years from now, what does everything look like with name, image, and likeness, and with all of this, if you had to predict?
Man, I don't know. I mean, it's like asking, about the TV rights stuff with these conferences and what the next contracts are going to look like. It's just hard to know because things move and change so fast. The last decade of college sports, I mean, the upheaval and just the massive changes we've seen that came from O'Bannon, and the stipends, and now we're talking about NIL and the Supreme Court. Like, it just moves so fast. A decade now seems like 50 years, and it's going to evolve. And I do think the system will look significantly different because it's just going to have to. But exactly what and how, your guess is as good as mine.
Do you ever think we get to a point, because we talked about this with the 12-team playoff, and that you have the Power Fives, and the Power Fives are becoming more and more powerful in their own entity, that we're just going to get to a point where you're going to have Power Five, and then you're going to have the Group of Five that may not include every team in the Group of Five now, but they're kind of overall doing their own thing, and they're just two separate entities at some point?
Well, I actually think that this playoff expansion that is going to happen actually kind of solidifies the future of FBS in a lot of ways, because the biggest thing that you've had kind of hanging out there with the 4-team playoff was access for the Group of Five, and now in this 12-team playoff they're going to have that, and I do think in some ways that kind of settles that question for quite a while. Now, look, I think ultimately there's an issue with maybe those schools and other, kind of Division I big time basketball schools that don't really play football, and maybe the rest of the NCAA that may need to be dealt with. I mean, the NCAA has got, I don't know how many, I can't remember off the top of my head how many thousand members, but like you're talking about Division III schools and Division II schools who have literally nothing in common with, Tennessee and Vanderbilt. Are just absolutely nothing. And I do think that that's something, especially if you end up in a different model, some kind of revenue sharing model, that may be hard to manage under the same system, under the same set of rules. But certainly I think if you're talking about, the Tennessees and Vanderbilts and, Memphis and MTSU, like, I do think they're now more on the same page than even they were probably, 7-8 years ago.
Well, be something to watch for sure. Dan, we appreciate the time as always. Great insight, and we will do it again soon.
Thank you.
Dan Wolken, USA Today. Always enjoy our chats with him, as it was a historic ruling by the Supreme Court. So we'll have much more coming on that. But first, Darren, you're going to tell us about DraftKings.
I am indeed going to tell you about DraftKings Sportsbook. It's not only my favorite sportsbook, but it's also America's top-rated sportsbook, and I love using DraftKings Sportsbook. It's easy to navigate, has plenty of instructions for new bettors, and nearly limitless ways to get in on all the action. My friends and family have been loving DraftKings Sportsbook, and I know you will too. Listen to this great offer. DraftKings Sportsbook is putting you courtside with a chance to turn $1 into $150 in site credits. That's right. All you have to do is pick any basketball team that's still in contention, bet $1 of your money, and if that team wins, you win $150 in site credits. Don't forget, DraftKings Sportsbook also offers great odds and promotions on baseball, hockey, and so much more all week long. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, and you can deposit and withdraw your funds at your convenience. All you have to do is download that top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Use that promo code 1025GAME, and when you sign up, turn $1 into $150 in site credits. All you have to do is bet on a basketball team of your choice to win their next game, and if they do, you claim $150 in site credits. That promo code, again, 1025GAME, for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Remember, you must be 21 years of age or older, Tennessee only. Wagers paid out in site credits. Restrictions do apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789.
From all-day talk.
You can roll with that team. That's good enough to win a lot of football games.
To the biggest games.
The Los Angeles Dodgers have won the World Series for the first time since 1988.
Nashville's best sports talk is always at your fingertips. Just search the game Nashville in your app store and download today. And keep it locked on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
1025 The Game.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 News Code Red meteorologist Dan Guthrie.
Yesterday's showers and storms cleared out all the heat and humidity, allowing us to have a much cooler and pleasant air mass in place today. Highs upper 70s, no humidity.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Ryan Porth here for TwinSpire Sportsbook, and with their new Win for a Win offer, you'll get rewarded every time your team wins in the playoffs. Just place a bet on any team to win this year's basketball title, and you'll get a free $10 bet for each playoff win. That's right, $10 per win, any team of your choice. Just download the TwinSpire Sportsbook app today and use code WINBA. Void where prohibited. Offer valid for new players on a minimum bet of $25. Must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. Gambling problem? Call or text the Tennessee Redline 1-800-889-9789.
The young men and women who become United States Marines come from our hometowns to become a part of something greater than themselves. This commitment represents the highest level of steadfast allegiance to the betterment of our communities, our country, and our Marine Corps.
Today, the Buzz and the Marines of Manchester would like to honor Adam Petty from Coffee County Central High School. We're proud that one of our own is taking the first step to becoming a United States Marine.
The journey will be one of the most challenging, but also one of the most rewarding. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Lately, we've been getting a lot of calls and questions about acoustic wave therapy for the treatment of erectile dysfunction. This is a relatively new treatment for ED, but one we've been using for years. This is Kim for the Tennessee Men's Clinic, and if you're looking at acoustic wave therapy or any option to help your ED, it's worth a visit to check us out. Our wave therapy protocols use acoustic wave technology, but often also combine it with other treatments that can give most of our patients far higher satisfaction rates. There is no surgery nor any type of invasive procedures required, and while most clinics you hear about only offer sound wave treatments, with our urologist and provider's guidance, you can likely have sex the day after your appointment and experience fewer letdowns. With another one of our ED treatments, you can last up to an hour and a half, and our expertise in treating these issues means you'll get the results you want. So make your appointment today. We'll show you why our acoustic wave program is the better way to do wave therapy. Call us today at 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Visit our website to learn more, including side effects. Treatments extra. Results vary.
Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. Because there's only one you, Vuse Alto is the vape as unique as you are. With Vuse by You, you can make your unique mix with any of 7 colors, 3 flavors, 3 nicotine levels, and infinite wrap designs. So how will you do you? Make Vuse Alto a vape that is yours. In store now. Discover more at Vuse.com. Vuse. Charge beyond. Vapor products. Underage sale prohibited. Website and offers restricted to age 21 and over tobacco consumers.
Robbie Stanley.
I was waiting in anticipation for something to happen.
Joe Rexroad.
It's also 3-on-3. It's a little easy to score in 3-on-3. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can take this.
Get your morning started with Robbie and Rexroad every weekday from 6 to 10 on Nashville's best sports talk. ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app. If you've missed any of today's show, just search Darren, Daunic, and Chase on Apple, Spotify, or on your favorite podcast platform.
Don't forget, 94.9 is the official English radio home of the Nashville Soccer Club. Listen in Saturday night as Nashville SC takes on Montreal. Pregame starts at 7:15. That's p.m. Match begins at 7:30. Back here on Darren, Daunic, and Chase. Good stuff there from Dan Walken from USA Today as the Supreme Court unanimous decision. And it is interesting moving forward. What does this mean? It's pretty clear that the NCAA is not going to be able to operate the way that they've been operating. And I feel like everybody, I don't want to speak for everybody. I don't want to throw a blanket statement out there, but I know I've changed, and there's so many people that I've talked to kind of changed their mind on really how they feel about amateurism. And because of its billions of dollars attached to it these days, I think everybody has come to the conclusion of everybody's getting rich off these kids but the kids, and so they deserve a slice of the pie. And so it'll be interesting to see how they're able to figure all this out. Mark Emmert, did I just see where he got an extension? You got to be kidding me. He got an extension?
How does he keep hanging on?
By the way, he makes millions.
I know.
Every year. He makes like $2 or $3 million a year. You've got to be kidding me. And they gave him an extension. But I digress. So what do you guys make of all this? Where do you think this is headed?
I see like a wide range of directions that could go in. You could hear Dan's voice, who knows a lot more than any of us do on this, studies this kind of stuff. So I try to keep it macro. I think the best way for the NCAA to make this work is to meet it head on and try to, come after it with a bargaining, mindset. Let's get the players all on one page. But here's what you're going to have. You're going to have a lot of fragmentation. You're going to have some people at the top saying that the very, very best athletes, the elite athletes who really can make some money with their own name while they're there at a high-profile school, should be able to make as much as they want. You're going to have other people saying, let's split it evenly among all the athletes, men, women, regardless of sport. That's a pretty big difference in the amount of money that you would get if it's divided up that way. So that's what I'm asking about the wild, wild west. If you had no rules at all, it's just basically, hey, every man for themselves, every woman for themselves. If you can make money off your name, do it.
That's probably the most fair, I think. Well, It's not the most fair. The most fair would be an even split, but I don't
know if any of this is fair for everybody, right? No matter what you do, it's not fair for everybody. What's the result, right? And like Dan says, in our country, we do it differently than anybody else around the world, right? Tying your school to your athletics. It's always separate everywhere else you go. It's a very different system. So how do we evolve and try to preserve this, I root for my school mentality that we've had for generations?
Unfortunately, that part's going to change. It just is. This is one of those. We're going to have
clubs, or you just think? I know it's going to change. I think I've come around to the system that's been intact since I've been following sports.
Sure.
It's like 115
It's got to
years.
change. Yeah.
It's going to change. The whole thing on how you split it up is going to be the interesting debate, because I get that you look at it, go, all right, well, everybody gets an even piece of the pie. I don't think I agree with that, because you're going to have the top tier athletes that they're the ones creating the pie. They are the ones that are going to be doing the grunt work because of their talent that is going to be feeding that pie. So it's just like in any business, not everybody gets paid the same. That's it. That's life. And what we do in sports, it doesn't matter. You have experience, you have talent, you have all those things that factor in. So you're going to have some people that may look at it, oh, well, this isn't fair. Well, yeah, but you're also, the last guy on the roster and you never play. So I don't know how to break it to you, but the star quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, is going to make more than you. That's just how it is. And I think that's where this is going to go. And I agree with that. I think if you're a more featured player and your name carries more weight, then you should be rewarded for that.
Well, I don't know where it's going.
I just want there to be a place for the last guy on the roster.
Sure, absolutely.
I want there to be a place for the volleyball player and the baseball player who isn't on scholarship. The Middle Tennessee program, the Belmont, the Lipscomb, the Tennessee State. I want there to be a place for those kids to be able to play. I just don't want to see some of this go by the wayside as all this change comes in there.
Well, I don't know how this is going to play out, because I don't pretend to get in the heads of the NCAA. I think they're a bunch of buffoons like they've always been. So I'm not going to pretend like I know how this is going to go. But, probably the more – I would say this is unpopular, but I've been very consistent over the years. If you've listened to the show, if you've listened to me, life is about, some people, everybody doesn't play on the same rules. That's how life works. And you should certainly be learning about life in college. There's no doubt. In fact, that's one of the big proponents, I believe, in going to college, not only getting an education, but getting some life learning skills.
Yeah, preparing yourself for what's ahead.
Prepare for life. And life, sometimes sucks. And it's not easy, just like sports and just like everything else. And I just don't believe everybody's on an even playing field. It's nothing against, doesn't mean that they don't work harder, doesn't mean that they're not any more important. It just means that's how life works. We don't all operate on the same rules. And if you are in your office the top salesman and you sell more than anybody else and it's not even close, you're the top biller, you don't have the same rules as the lowest biller. Okay, that's not how it works. The lowest biller, if they're late to a meeting, you know what? They're probably going to be asked to stay over afterwards, and then there's going to be a sit-down talk of, you know, you're not at the point where you can be late to meetings. You know what? The top dog is late to the meeting. Everybody looks the other way. That's how life works, and it's no different in sports. And I hate it, and I'm with you, Willie. I don't want to see them left out either. I'm totally for that, but I just don't want, let's not pretend like everybody is on the same playing field. If you bring in the most money, your sport, that's just what it is. And we know what that answer is. It's football. Football drives the bus, drives the train, whatever reference you want to use, it drives it. It is the money maker. It is the bell cow. It is the blood that keeps the sports engine going. And then it's basketball. And then we can go down the list. That's just what it is. We love college baseball on here. We talk about it all the time. Vanderbilt's got arguably the best program in the country. I think it is the best program in the country with the best coach in the country. But you know what? And we've talked a lot about Tennessee this year, rightfully so, because of their winning and their success. But college baseball should not be treated like college football. They're not the same. As much as we love it, as much as they work their tail off, and they deserve recognition and they deserve stuff, they're not on the same playing field as basketball and football.
And I don't think that's going to change, right? That's always going to be the case.
I don't know.
You just need a visionary. Somebody's got to be a visionary and a leader. And unfortunately, I'm kind of with you. Mark Emmert is probably not the guy. Listen to the words
you just threw out there, and you're attaching that to the NCAA and Mark Emmert?
Mark Emmert is too much clinging to the old system. He's got to look ahead and say, what's the best way to bring this into the fold?
Yeah, but it's not just him.
Be a positive thing.
It's the people that, he just got a contract extension. So, it's clearly not just him. The people that make those decisions that, he's doing a good job, they're clinging to the old system too.
Well, schools have budgets, right? Schools don't want to have to, like I think for years you could hear, just pick a school, Western Kentucky, Middle Tennessee, Austin P. They're the first to say, you know what, we don't have we barely have the budget to do what we're doing. If we had to turn around and pay the athletes, we're screwed. So that's what is scary to those schools. Now, if it's just, hey, if you can make money off your name, go ahead, man. Great. Then if that's the form that this takes, then it's going to create a lot of issues, but that won't be the issue, right? For those schools. So that's one thing to think about. But you got to have somebody that's really trying to think in terms of everybody. And like Dan said, the NCAA, when you add Division II and Division III, you got over 1,000 schools who have athletic programs in your organization. And as Dan pointed out, there's absolutely zero in common with where I grew up, Manhattanville College, a Division III school in New York, with Vanderbilt University, a Division I school in Nashville, right? There's nothing in common between those two. They play the same sports, but the model is completely different. But the NCAA oversees both.
We'll come back. Second hour. By the way, we will head to Omaha at 11:30. We'll bring in the voice of Vols baseball, John Wilkerson. We'll do that at 11:30. We'll talk about their big tilt today at 1 o'clock. An elimination game between Tennessee and Texas. That's coming up at 11:30 today. More of Darren, Daunic, and Chase next.
From Goodlettsville to 12 South,
it could come down to the final possession.
We are Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Hey, Sounds fans, Jeff Hem here at First Horizon Park with your Sounds update on ESPN Nashville. The Sounds start a 6-game series with Charlotte tonight and a 12-game homestand. And after a 6-2 win against Gwinnett on Sunday, the Sounds are 26-14. Here's the first of Keston Hira's 2 home runs from Sunday. Deep right center field. Pache back at the wall. Gone! Keston Hira with a long opposite field home run to right center. A 2-run shot. Hira's got his 4th in 19 games with the Sounds. RBIs 12 and 13. And even though Hummel's didn't go out, Hira's is a no-doubter. And the Sounds take a 5-0 lead. Josh Lindblom got the win, and the Sounds won on Father's Day in Georgia. And now they'll host Charlotte tonight at 7:05. We're on the air at 6:50 on ESPN 94.9. This is Jeff Hem with your Nashville Sounds update on ESPN Nashville.
Bring everything up to speed with the Novatech Managed Office. Novatech's Managed Office portfolio consists of 4 key pillars that provide a unique, holistic approach to business technology, bringing together hardware, software, and services for IT, print, cloud, and security. Novatech's mantra: get it all, get it right, and get it now. From a technology partner you can trust. Let Novatech manage your business technology so you can focus on what matters most, your business. Learn more about the Novatech Managed Office and request a free Office X-ray technology assessment at novatech.net. That's novatech.net.
The ultimate social experience is coming to Nashville. My Wine Society presents Blended Festival, August 13th and 14th at First Horizon Park, with live performances by Cascade, Lil Jon, Matt Stell, Blanco Brown, Bryce Fine, and more. Enjoy Blended's massive 100-foot wine tasting tent and indulge in culinary activations by Nashville's hottest chefs. There's also Blended's relaxing wellness lounge, VIP village, and a whole lot more. Get Blended. Tickets on sale now at blendedfestival.com. Use promo code GAME at checkout for 10% off your ticket.
Welcome to Parent Teacher Night. Oh, yes, Miss Garner.
With the Capital One Venture Card, you earn unlimited double miles everywhere.
Really? My airline credit card only gets extra miles on some types of purchases.
And you can use Capital One Venture Miles on any travel purchase. Plus, earn 100,000 bonus miles when you spend $20,000 in your first year.
Venture gets an A+.
Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Limited time offer. Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
This is Carl Sholin, St. Andrew Sewanee School Head of School, where we are currently accepting enrollment for our summer overnight camp. This is a great opportunity for children in grades 5 through 12 to get back to the fun of being kids. Learn more at sasweb.org.
Nashville's best sports talk, locally owned, home of our Nashville Predators. WPRT FM Pegram, 97.5 Murfreesboro, WBUZ HD2 Laverne, online at thegamenashville.com. We are
ESPN
102.5 The Game. Live from the Wholesaling Studios, powered by RumbleOn.com. It's time for Darren, Daunic, and Chase, with hosts Darren McFarland, Willie Daunic, and Chase McCabe on Nashville's best sports talk,
ESPN
102.5 The Game.
Second hour, Darren, Daunic, and Chase on this gorgeous Tuesday here in Middle Tennessee. Darren McFarland, Willie Daunic, and Chase McCabe with you. Elijah Campbell, man in the border, our Wholesale Link Game Studios, powered by RumbleOn.com. Don't forget to go to theGameNashville.com to check out Nashville's best deals. The deals happening right now include $50 Bad Axe throwing, Nashville gift card for only $25. Buy one, get one free for Beach Bend Park and Splash Lagoon. This is the time of year for that. $20 Grain and Berry gift card for just $10. Get yours right now while supplies last. All you have to do is go to theGameNashville.com. So took in Vanderbilt, NC State, took in a lot of sports last night, and thought, you know what? After that game, I need to check out what's going on with the Islanders and the Lightning.
Yo.
Any good movies on HBO? Wow.
It's a crime scene.
I mean, that is a good way of putting
Tampa.
it. I was like, yikes. Holy
and it
cow.
was crazy seeing Tom Brady throw to Gronk for that touchdown and 2-point conversion.
I know. They've got a good kicker to go for two.
Yeah,
was amazing. Good call.
I guess they thought Suck Up might slip on the ice, so they just decided to go for two.
The analytics, man. 2 points better than one.
Yeah, I guess so.
Here's the deal.
John Cooper was going two.
We talked about, by the way, that was a quite the spirited game in the third period, as you can imagine, with the score and a game out of hand like that. You do wonder what'll be the carryover with all of that. As much as we talked about yesterday, wanting to see Barry and Shea Weber in the Stanley Cup final, We see this all the time, and you have to be very, very careful when you go down this road, because we've seen it so many times in sports, not just in hockey. But a beatdown like that has you immediately going, oh, well, they're toast. Did anybody remember? And I know you do, because you've been listening to the show and we've talked about it, and I bring it up constantly. Anybody remember Game 1 of the Super Regional in Fayetteville? NC State lost
pretty recent example,
21-2, and they're going up against the number 1 seed in the country on the road. 21-2 in baseball. That is a crime scene in a Super Regional. And well, guess what? They came back and they won, and we know the rest is history. They're 2-0 in the College World Series. I don't know.
In 2019, before Kamar Rocker's no-hitter, they lost 18-5 to Duke in the first game.
Yep, that's right.
And then they won the next two.
That's right.
So it's one game, right? It's the old cliche. It's one loss.
It is one game, but there is a but coming. As much as it's one game, and as much as I can start citing examples of don't get caught up in one game and say it's over, because teams rebound all the time from just getting mopped in a series, okay, in one game. But when you watch this Lightning team, and I know we watched it firsthand, right, up close and personal all year, 8 times against the Predators, and watched a lot because they were in the Predators division. Where's their weakness? I mean, they're just the most complete team. They really are. Vegas is good. Montreal's been a great story. The Islanders have been an unbelievable story, and both of those teams are deserving. But when you look at Tampa, they are just such a complete team. Like, by the way, Vasilevsky, good luck on the next game after a loss. Did you see what his response is every time after a loss? Like, not only do they win, he usually shuts you out.
Right.
I mean, he's a guy who responds.
That's my observation about Tampa. Now, again, we can get into this because it affected the Predators in 2015. The manipulation of the salary cap, that's a real thing that they did. And it's a legal way. As long as you don't go egregious with it, you can get away with it. They stashed Kucherov on the injured list with a huge salary cap number that didn't count against the cap. Right? So that gave them an advantage.
That's long time IR, right?
Yes, they do that. You can bring that guy back in the playoffs. And so there's a little bit of debate, but every team would do it if they could. And you have to be good enough to do what they did during the season, and then still make the playoffs. But most teams in the salary cap era are not flaw free, right? That's what really in any sport, especially in a hard cap like hockey, where if things go wrong, you can't do a whole lot about it. But they have no weaknesses, you pointed out, Darren. It's very rare that you have a juggernaut offensively that also has the best goalie, right? There's usually just not enough money to have all those guys, right? Especially for an extended period of time, which they've been able to pull off. Because they've been this dominant for probably at least 3 or 4 years now, right? And you can probably take it a little further back than that. True?
Right. But let me say this. If your team got beat like the Islanders got beat last night, and you got to bounce back, you're facing elimination, isn't Barry Trotz the coach you would want to have to try and to rally the troops?
Well, he's been through all these situations before, for sure. So I love that team playing in that building, right, where every game could be the last game in the Nassau Coliseum, because they're going to move into their new building next year. I just think they're going to be ready to go. Now Tampa's good enough to win, like you said, Darren. It takes everything you have to contain them, because they have so many ways of beating you. But I don't think it's going to be 8-0. I think it'll be another game that we've seen throughout the series, tight all the way to the end.
In Vegas, somebody's going to take a 3-2 lead tonight in Vegas. So,
and you go from the sort of quiet 3,500 to the raucous, crazy, louder than loud, full throttle of Vegas.
Yep.
That's another thing Montreal deserves credit for is, they haven't had that. None of the Canadian teams have had that throughout the playoffs, and bouncing back between these atmospheres or lack of is quite the storyline for these playoffs.
So let's shift this now to the Predators, as we'll see how all this plays out. I wanted to bring it because I thought, man, oh man, I mean, the Lightning, they're just so good. Remember the players poll? I mean, Victor Hedman was by far the runaway best defenseman, by far. So and then you've got the best goalie, and you've got Kucherov, and you've got, oh, by the way, Braden Point, who's good for a point at least every game. Actually, his name should be Braden Points because of the way he's played in the playoffs. But they're just so good. Anyway, we'll see how all that plays out Wednesday night. We'll see if the Islanders can stave off elimination. Let's talk about things on the Predators' end. So they've got a lot at hand as everybody's trying to figure out what David Poile is going to do this offseason. A lot of big decisions have to be made. So I'm going to ask you a very difficult, and it's hard to narrow it down to one, but I'm asking you to give me, what do you think is number one thing on David Poile's list? If everything's got to be numbered in order of importance, what is number one on his list of things this offseason? What does he have to address first? Who would like to start?
I think it's pretty simple. I think UC Saros.
You think it's pretty simple?
Yeah, I think signing UC Saros to the right contract is the first priority.
Really?
Yeah. If you don't have a goalie.
Yeah,
but he's an RFA.
He's an RFA. Like, it really, that's the number one thing of importance, is getting an RFA signed?
Let him finish.
Okay.
That's fine.
I'm surprised by that. Okay.
Well, it's not that he's going to be back. UC Saros is going to be the goalie. But the question is, how many years? How much money? Because that dictates your budget. We just got done talking about it. It's very hard to have a highly paid goalie and enough resources to fill out the rest of your roster where you have a really powerful roster, especially if you've got some guys making a lot of money that aren't producing a lot, which is the handicap that you have going in. It's their own fault, right? It hadn't worked out. They have two $8 million centers that aren't playing like top centers. That is the weight on the entire payroll right now. Can't get around it. It's nothing personal against those guys, but they're making a lot of money. They're not producing a lot of results. So you got to sign UC Saros to the right contract. Can you get him for $4 million? Is it more like $5 million? I think you'd have a wide range of people, a wide range of guesses on what his next contract is going to be. Is it going to be a 2-year deal, 4-year deal, 6 or 7-year investment? Once upon a time, when Pekka Rinne was even older than UC Saros is now, he signed a 7-year, $7 million contract, 7 for 7. But I think at that point he had been doing it for, I want to say, at least 3 years of being a dominant, first-rate goalie, and he became one of the higher-paid goalies in the league. And Saros isn't that. He's between that. Right, he's a Vezina caliber guy for 1 year. He's only been a starter for
half a year.
He's only 26, not a half a year. It's not a full year either. It's 56 games.
But half of that 56 game season, he was lights out. But I'm not going to say he was at the first part. I mean, he was hurt.
But his numbers at the end of the year were Vezina level, even with the slow start.
Right. But you got to factor in the slow. They're going to factor in the slow start.
That's what I'm saying. It's going to be a difficult negotiation, I think.
Okay. I mean, that's certainly not it's not what I thought. I mean, an RFA, I can't imagine that's number one on David Poile's list, but okay. Look, there's no wrong answers.
I get it's an important position.
Yeah, of course, what's your budget? What's your budget?
Okay, hang on. So
But we know it's not going to be 7 years because by the way, you've drafted a first-round goalie, so it's not going to be 7 years. And we know it's not going to be a long-term. It's going to be somewhere between 2 and 4 years. I mean, that's what I believe. That's what I think he'll sign. But somewhere between 2 and 4 years, just depending on the money.
Yep. So here's mine. I think the number one priority is figuring out how to move money. whether it's like we've talked about with the expansion draft of working a deal with Seattle to take a big contract, whether it's Duchesne, Johansson, those would be the top two. Maybe Ellis is in that conversation, but figuring out a way to move some of these heavy contracts, which is not going to be easy by any means, so you can make room to figure out what's next. Are you going to re-sign Forsberg? Are you going to re-sign Ekholm? You're going to be able to do that.
Well, he said one thing. You're listening to like 7 things. Okay, so let's narrow it down.
No, but it all ties together. So
okay,
I'm saying
but when you say some contracts,
well, I mean,
I think you'd be lucky to move one of the big contracts.
And that's what I mean. So move one of the big contracts.
Okay, I think that's a fair.
Well, get specific. I mean,
well, I think you might have to give yourself a few options to move one.
But I'm asking you guys.
So if I'm David Poyle, I am moving Matt Duchesne.
Okay.
I am getting rid of that contract.
This is via expansion draft?
Any way I can.
Okay. Do you think that is the best? That's the best way for that to happen?
I think the expansion draft is the best way.
Okay.
But you're gonna have to give up. You're gonna have to give up something.
Okay. So what are you willing to give up? Okay. One player that is either in the starting lineup or is in the pipeline and has had some spot starts, what have you. What one player are you willing to give up realistically? I mean, don't throw out, something silly. It's like, well, yeah. Come on. Okay.
I think they'd be more inclined to want, a prospect or a young player.
Mm-hmm.
I would give them Fabro.
You would?
Yep.
I would not.
Yep.
This is interesting, but I've had some people bring that up. Would you rather give up somebody like Fabro or somebody or like a first round pick? To me, I would rather give up a first round pick than Fabro. I'm holding on to Fabro.
Okay, why?
Fabro is a developed prospect that has not yet reached his potential, but you have a pretty good idea of what he is. A first-round pick, which in theory would be, where do they pick this year? 15th, 17th, somewhere?
Middle of the pack.
Yep.
Middle of the pack first round. I just think there's a lot less chance that guy becomes as good as Fabro.
What's his ceiling, in your opinion?
I think Fabro is a top 4 defenseman.
Okay, top 2 or top 4?
I think
there's a difference. First D pairing or second D pairing?
I'm going to say second D pairing.
Yep.
Realistically, I think there's a outside shot that he could be first, but I think I just go back to this when Ryan Ellis was 21 or 22, or Matthias Ekholm were 21 and 22. Yossi always kind of had that, hey, this guy's going to be special label. Ekholm and Ellis were a little bit more of, I don't know, and then boom.
See, I thought it was the other way around. I thought it was more Ellis, and then Yossi was like, hey, he's good.
No. If you talk to people, I used to get people tell me, like, that literally would stop me and be like, let me just tell you, this Roman Yossi kid, you better watch him. You better put him on your radar. I'm just telling you, this kid is different than everybody else. This was years and years and years ago. So, no, I had those conversations. Willie's absolutely right. There was no doubt. If you were talking to the right people, they were telling you, you better be putting this Yossi kid on your radar because this kid's different.
Now, I don't know when you watch Fabro that you say this kid's different, right? He doesn't have this physical talent, this unbelievable shot or unbelievable speed. He's not like that, but he's good at everything. I just think for him, it's a little bit more the reps. It's a little more mental, just getting over the hump. He didn't get any minor league seasoning that all these other guys like Dan Hamhuis and Ryan Suter and Shea Weber, all those guys got some reps. Carrier is a great example. He got tons of reps.
But
I will say this to you, Willie. I've had no one, and I mean no one, that I have specifically asked about him that have better eyes than me and would certainly know better than me. The same people that told me Yossi was special a long, long, long time ago. I've not had one person tell me they believe Fabro is special.
Well, that's why
I've not had one person tell me, no, they think he's honestly his ceiling at best. This is what I've been told. We root for him. We like him. We've been talking to him since he was in college.
I've been standing next to you in some of these conversations.
Yes, and I've been told his ceiling at best would be second D pairing, and that is if things really take off for him. That he is a third D pairing guy, and that's what he is. And these
if
are
that's
people,
how they evaluate him, then they absolutely should shop him around.
That's what I'm getting at.
I just don't think they see him.
If you believe, well, I mean, how do you know? I mean, I don't know that. I don't know what they think of Dante Fabro. I know that, you know what, they were playing in some pretty important games, and he wasn't in there.
Right, but
so
what would you have said?
Clearly, there's hesitation. There's pause for concern.
But my comeback to you is, what did you think of Alex Carrier 2 years ago? Alex Carrier is 2 years older. Alex Carrier is 2 years older than Fabro.
I wasn't even talking to anybody about Carrier, so I don't know.
Well, that ought to tell you something.
I know, but the difference is I am talking to people about Fabro, people that have watched him because he's logged over 100 NHL games, and I'm telling you, the people that have told me and the people that have better eyes, hockey eyes than me say, I mean, I like him, but he's like a third D pairing guy. And so the reason I bring that up is because when you say no, you would shop him. If you need to move a contract, and if they've evaluated in their room the same thing, wouldn't that be then open for discussion?
I'm pretty sure that that's not how they have him evaluated.
Okay.
And let me again go back to another example. I just told you, Carrier 2 years ago, you would have said, no way, man. Top 4 defenseman, not seeing it. Matthias Ekholm, remember, started the season, and I want to say it was the 2011-2012 season, if I've got that right.
Trotzy told him to get a dog.
Yeah, if you're scared to get a dog, he went back home to Sweden.
Yeah.
What did you think he was back then? Right? Guys mature at different levels. They go different ways. It's not easy to project, but I feel like they're – and, of course, when you're a first-round pick, they're going to give you a little extra time. He did not have a good season this year, Fabro, but there were some reasons for that.
Willie, the problem that I have with your evaluations is you want everything to be concrete and set in stone. You're like, it's tricky. Well, yeah, that's the whole part of trading. Like, once you know everything, then, by the way, either you're keeping them or you can't get rid of them. It's like once everybody has got a concrete definition of what that person is, because you're always like, yeah, but there's time to grow into that, and they're not there yet, and this is tricky. He's still very young. Yes, all true statements. But once you have defined, once it's concrete, they are really good, or I got lots of question marks. Then you're in a no man's land. You're out there in that gray area going, yeah, can you take? Everybody's looking at this person going, I'm not real sure. I don't really think he's that much. I don't really have any interest in him. Or if he's really good and he blossoms and he takes off, well, guess what? Now you're not trading him. So that's the whole point. Like, you can't wait until you have a defined answer one way or the other.
I'm telling you, I'm holding on to Fabro, and you can have. I would rather package my first round pick, or hopefully I didn't have to do that, but maybe a couple of seconds, something like that, to move a big contract. I do think that somewhere in here in this equation, I agree with Chase's assessment. There's got to be some money freed up to get yourself a little more flexible.
What about a guy like Rem Pitlick?
I'd be willing to move him at this stage.
Do you think Seattle would have any interest?
That's what I don't know. Seattle could have a wide range of opinions on him. I think prospects like him, you're going to get a mixed bag of, one scout might say, yeah, I really like this guy. This guy could be really good. And then another scout's like, nah, I'm not seeing it. Too small.
I think it's going to take
whatever
more.
It is.
It's going to take more.
Well, and defenseman, I just, of his, because of the things you just said, Willie, I mean, he's still young. He's still developing. I think that may have a little more cachet for Seattle, but I say that because this team knows how to pick defensemen, and so yes, it's going to hurt. And moving $8 million, moving a contract like Matt Duchene's is going to hurt. You're going to have to eat something, and it's not going to taste good. But if that means that you unload that, Fabro, okay, he's gone, but you have Ferentz that you're still evaluating. He's very, very young.
Yep.
Davies, we'll see.
He needs to make a jump.
He's got to make a big jump.
Remember, he's a little
24?
older.
Yeah, he's 24. So But the jump better happen real soon.
Okay, but Carrier took the jump, so it does happen. And Carrier has obviously changed the way of thinking because Carrier was supposed to fill a spot, and he took 2 jumps, in my opinion. So I think that and Pitlick could be one that if that's all it took, then okay. But
Pitlick is a really interesting one because he would not be on a high prospect radar if you did it like a league wide. But he's a guy that's sneaky, right? If you look at his production in Milwaukee or at the AHL this year Chicago, right? Last year was Milwaukee, but he's put together 2 really good seasons at the AHL at a pre-age, and I don't know if would you say he's flashed at the NHL level? I don't know if I would say that.
I'm bringing him up because I don't know where he is. I mean, I don't know what he is.
He's a mid-level.
Right,
he's a mid-level prospect. There are players like him that make jumps. Yeah, and some of those guys turn into really good players, and some guys just never can get it done at the big level, right? I think you would say that about some baseball players. There's some guys, hey, 4A guy for a while, and then boom, makes a jump, and you're like, why didn't this guy come up earlier? Yeah, and then there's other guys that are 4A forever, and they never forever. Get it. Right. Yeah,
right. I mean, never get in there. I think you would have said that about Carrier
Barnes.
Yeah, great example.
But I mean, if they looked at Pitlick and said, you know what? Yeah, I think there's something there. We'll take him, and then he plays every day in the NHL. Then who knows?
All right, let's take another example. Victor Arvidsson. He wasn't even drafted the first year he was eligible to get drafted. I don't think he was even picked the second year he was eligible. He wasn't a high pick. He was in the minor leagues. There was no hype about, hey, wait, where did they bring up Victor Arvidsson, man? This guy's going to light it up. He's going to have 30-goal seasons. He would never have said that. He was a little bit like Rem Pitlick, right? Mid-range prospect. Hey, he's doing a nice job. And then all of a sudden the lights come on and he scores 30 goals in the league, and he's got his contract. So and for every Victor Arvidsson, there's probably like 5 other guys that
never make it.
that never make it.
Yeah.
So that's why this is a really tough thing. But who does Seattle like? That's the key. Who are you willing to give up that Seattle likes and has value for them to take a big contract? Because I think regardless of where you go, somewhere in here,
I told you what I would do.
You got to give up a big contract.
I'm with you. I think it's got to be a number one. It just does, because it's going to have to. It then dictates other things, right? Yep. Like that layer then dictates a lot of other layers. I just think that's probably number one, and I don't know how. That's David Poyle's. That's in his lap. That's why he gets paid the big bucks, and that's why he's a Hall of Famer. But that is where I would go. Like they have to figure out a way to free up some stuff. Look, we've talked about this before. If there's a certain group that is remain the same and the results are not changing, at some point, like you can't keep chipping around the edges. You've changed everything else. You've chipped around the edges with players and coaches.
You got to swing the hammer.
You got to At some point, you got to start knocking in there. Okay, so something's got to change if you want different results. So it is interesting. We'll get into this a little bit later, because I think Rocco Grimaldi is another one that you do wonder, what is his future here? What is his future with John Hines as the coach? He's another one we could bat around, but I don't know what he is out on the open market, right? Is he a carrot that interests anybody? We'll come back. We'll head to Omaha. We'll talk to the voice of the Vols, John Wilkerson. They have their game in about an hour and a half against Texas. We'll do that next on Darren, Daunic, and Chase, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Listen to us talk sports out of our app.
That's a heck of an investment. How cool was that story?
Single.
They're out shooting teams.
I think he's a good player. Day.
Okay, good talk.
Just search The Game Nashville in your app store and download today. And keep it locked on Nashville's best sports talk. ESPN 102.5 The Game.
After a long, cold, miserable snow shoveling polar vortex frostbitten winter, the last thing you want to do is yard work. So here's a helpful tip to get you out of raking and reseeding. Advice on how to get going instead of whacking weeds and mowing the lawn. Zoom across your yard with precision and ease on a new Kubota zero-turn mower. Right now, you can get 0% financing up to 72 months on certain models. Visit Coleman Tractor, featuring Kubota's full line of Kubota lawnmowers, tractors, utility vehicles, and more. Check out the all-new Sidekick utility vehicle with best-in-class acceleration and strength to haul a half-ton or tow a full-ton. When your job demands precision construction equipment, Kubota has earned a solid reputation for well-engineered products that are reliable and deliver results. Coleman Tractor has 4 convenient locations in Middle Tennessee, Nashville, Clarksville, Paris, and their newest location in White House, now through June 30th. See us or go to KubotaUSA.com for more information.
More than 80% of hospitals and other healthcare employers are now looking to hire nurses holding a bachelor's degree. If you want to become a nurse and need an affordable nursing program, Aspen University wants to speak with you about our accelerated hybrid BSN. Want to learn more? Just text NURSE to 323232 right now. Most courses are online. You'll attend campus for your labs and complete your clinicals within our network of healthcare partners. Plus, if you need more flexibility, we offer nights and weekend schedules. Text NURSE to 323232 right now. If you want to become a nurse, now is the time. There's no wait list. Applying is free and takes just a few minutes. Don't wait. Spaces are limited. Text NURSE to 323232 to learn more. Text the word NURSE to 323232 right now. Text NURSE to 323232. The total cost of a degree program will vary depending upon the courses taken, transfer credits awarded, and fees incurred. Employment statistics are from the AACN Research Brief published in December 2020. Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Middle Tennessee and Southern Kentucky military and veteran families. You inspire all of us every day, and we know your families are the ones who inspire you. That's why AT&T wants to make sure military and veteran families stay connected. Hey, everybody, it's Joe Rexroad. As someone who grew up in an Army family and lived abroad, I know how important it is to stay connected to your family and how tough it can be at times. AT&T right now is giving you their best price on unlimited to show their appreciation for all that you do. Stay connected to your family with unlimited text, talk, and data. Military and veteran families get AT&T's best price on unlimited, starting from less than $27 a month per line when you get 4 lines. Visit att.com/military for more details. AT&T may temporarily slow data speeds if the network is busy. Requires AT&T Unlimited Starter. Includes 25% wireless disc and requires auto pay and paperless bill. Taxes and fees are extra. Proof of eligibility is required. Credits start within 3 bills. Credit card may be required except in Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, and North Dakota. And eligibility requirements and other restrictions apply.
Wednesday night. Walker Zimmerman and Nashville Soccer Club are back in action in Nissan Stadium in a playoff rematch against Toronto FC. Coverage begins at 7:15 on ESPN 94.9 and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, this is David Price. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Back here on Darren, Daunic, and Chase here on this Tuesday. Darren McFarland, Willie Daunic, Chase McCabe with you. Coming up in about an hour and a half, a little bit less. First pitch. Hard to believe. An elimination game between the 2 overall seed and the 3 overall seed. The battle of the UTs, Tennessee and Texas. And joining us from Omaha, the voice of the Vols, John Wilkerson, is on the line with us. John, how's set the scene for us? How has it been thus far out in Omaha?
Well, it's as you said, you don't want to be in the first elimination game, but that's where you find yourself if you're Tennessee. And it's really interesting because it's the same setup in terms of the SEC tournament. It was the 2-seed Tennessee taking on the 3-seed Mississippi State. Tennessee came out and punched the Bulldogs in the mouth, able to stay in play and eventually win their bracket. It's, I think, a little bit of a taller order today, even though it's State that beat Texas to put the Longhorns here. Texas, the number 2 seed, Tennessee, the 3 seed. And it's just been a wild tournament because you take the top half of the field, the 4 favorites, number 4 is gone, and the other 3 each have a loss now. So It has been it's been the day of the underdogs thus far in Omaha.
No, that's a good way of putting it. Isn't it crazy, the stat that they put up there, that this is the first time the 2 and the 3 seed have ever played after in game 2 in an elimination setting? Like, that's never happened before. That is hard to believe.
It is. And when you take a look at the pedigree that is Texas baseball, they've been here more than any other program in terms of College World Series appearances. And to just have, again, the 2 favored teams both lose, and in different fashion. Tennessee lost 6-0 to Virginia. Texas was down 2-1 with an outstanding pitching performance by Mississippi State. You just didn't expect these two teams to be in this position. But again, credit the Bulldogs and the Cavaliers. It's also been crazy in terms of the ACC being 2-0 against the SEC and outscoring their opponents 7-0 in those two games.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So you do wonder, so what's going to give? Tennessee gets shut out after their bats were alive in the Super Regional in Knoxville, or Texas that had 21 strikeouts against Mississippi State, both facing elimination. Tony Vitello, I know, touched on it, John, after their 6-0 loss to Virginia. How do you think the Vols respond today?
Tennessee's done such a great job responding all season long, and that's what I expect to see. They are going to, I think, fight to their last strike, and they are the road team in this game. Since both teams were the home team, it went to a coin toss, and the coin toss went to UT Junior, so Texas will be the home team. And then I do think that the Volunteers, they've got the pitcher that you want on the mound in freshman Blade Tidwell. He worked the third game of all 10 SEC series, and Tennessee 7 times went into that game with the series on the line, and he won 5 of them, with the only losses being 2 at the time, number 2 Vanderbilt and top-ranked Arkansas. So I think you've seen a young man really grow into this spot, and I think that he's somebody who can't wait to help his teammates fight to the bitter end.
John, you've been doing radio in the Knoxville market for a long time. You've been around this baseball program for a long time. What does it say? And could you see this build happening? This is, year 4 for Tony Vitello? It's been a while since Tennessee's had any success at baseball, since Rod Delmonico. Could you see this coming? Did you know right away, or was this kind of a slow build? And then maybe last year and this year you're like, holy cow, like Vitello's taken them to places we haven't seen in a long, long time.
I think you actually got a glimpse early on, because Tennessee, when Tony Vitello takes over the program, had won 7 conference games the year before, and they win 12 his first year. I mean, totally unexpected, because they were picked to be perhaps 7 or worse in regards to the number of conference wins. But there they were, going to Columbia, Missouri. If you win the series, you go to the SEC tournament. So you exceed expectations. You win 12 that first year, and then the next year you kick down the door and you end what was then a 14-year drought of getting to the NCAA tournament. You win 14 conference games, and you're on your way to Chapel Hill, where you make the regional final. You lose to Tar Heels, but you had taken a significant step forward. And that's something that Vitello spoke of from the moment he put on that orange blazer and was introduced as coach. He wasn't looking about step forward. He was talking about NCAA tournament year 1. They finished with a winning record, 2 games over 500 that year. The next year they won 40 games, and they won their first 14 in year 3, which turned out to be the COVID year that everything was shut down. They had won their first 14, did drop their last series, but they were getting ready to go play at South Carolina, and that's when everything got shut down. But you had 3 players that were drafted in the 5 rounds of last summer's MLB draft. So you had Garrett Crochet in the first round, Alaric Solari, and Zach Daniels, 2 outstanding outfielders that were also a part of those that were selected. So I think Tennessee, if everything had played out, could very well have at least approached making it here last year, but we'll never know. And then this year, Tennessee picked 3rd in the East, behind preseason number 1 Florida and the reigning College World Series champs in Vanderbilt, and Tennessee wins 20 SEC games and claims the first Eastern Division title since 1997. So it has been a steady climb, and the way that it's been done is developing the players and giving them the sense that they have the confidence in their own abilities and the belief that they can get the job done, and that's exactly what's happening.
John, I'm curious your thoughts on the Texas matchup today. You just talked about the rich history that the Longhorns had. We can think back to the days of Roger Clemens and Greg Swindell and some of the guys in the 80s when the ESPN first started covering the College World Series. It goes way, way back with that. But what about this team? I know, the 21 strikeouts has got to be the first thing on their mind. You have to think at the plate, those hitters are going to be, shorten up the swings, trying to put the ball in play. I wonder how Tennessee can take advantage of that.
Well, I do think that, that's one of the things, again, that you've seen Blade Tidwell really develop in terms of his ability to pitch, to work in and rely on as much on his breaking stuff as a fastball that in Hoover hit 99 on the gun. So I think he's going to try and mix it up. And while he did give up 6 runs in the Super Regional in the deciding game, the winning game against LSU, I think that was more a byproduct of just filling up the zone with strikes because you had such a big lead. So I think he's going to work the corners, and he's going to do his very best to keep them off balance. But with Texas, you see a lot of what you saw against Virginia, and that is they rely on their pitching to lead the way. Their team ERA is a quarter run better than any other program in the NCAA. It was more than a run better than number 2 in the Big 12, and they also are very sound defensively. Less than 50 errors on the season. So Tennessee's going to have to find holes in the Longhorn defense, just as they struggled to do so against Virginia. But I do think that, again, Tennessee, as Coach Vitello talked about, they put Sunday behind them. They had a good lift yesterday, which he thought was just something that got them back into routine, having a few laughs as they have all season long as a squad. And for that reason, I think they want to play to stay longer in Omaha. And as Coach B talked about, show the crowd what Tennessee baseball is and what Tennessee baseball is all about.
John, any feel right now? I know you still got a little ways. It could probably change as quick as it can change out there with storms rolling through or whatever. But what's the weather conditions today? Do you have any feel for the wind condition and how the ball might carry today?
Yeah, right now it's blowing out to left, but it changes in a heartbeat, which is amazing. We saw 19 runs scored in the elimination game yesterday between Stanford and Arizona as the Cardinal eliminated the Wildcats. Then you got a run in the night game. But right now the wind looks to be blowing out to left. It's going to be in the low to mid-teens for the better part of the afternoon. There is a chance of rain, a spotty shower, about 15% or so after first pitch. It increases when you get to about 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon here. So I think it might be more of an impact on the night game between Mississippi State and Virginia as opposed to Tennessee and Texas. And I just hope I didn't jinx the heck out of us with that.
John, real quick, we were talking to Vince yesterday. And Tennessee did not tax their bullpen too much in the first game. Nobody pitched more than about an inning or so. Do you think everybody's available out of the bullpen today?
I do. In fact, Coach Vitello spoke specifically to that with the day break between games, Sunday and Tuesday. I mean, nobody worked more than what would have been looked at as a bullpen anyhow. So I do think that he will have the approach today that he has in just about every game, and that is you try to go 1-0 today. So if for some reason he thinks that there's a moment where it's Will Heflin, who would be the projected Game 3 starter, he won't be afraid to go to him. But you do have Sean Hunley, who has done such a great job. The Mount Juliet native has been so outstanding for Tennessee this year, earning All-American status. You've also got Redmond Walsh, Camden Sewell. You've got the guys that Tennessee's relied on. Everybody's going to be all hands on deck if need be. But I also expect Blake Tidwell to lead that charge when he gets the ball to start.
We're talking to John Wilkerson of the Vol Network, the voice of the Vols, and as Tennessee will continue their College World Series adventure today. So something that we talked about, John, was, obviously they didn't score any runs against Virginia in Game 1, but how have they tried to adjust to the park there in Omaha and how, it's not a hitter friendly park. There are differences after playing the entire regional and super regional at Lindsey Nelson Stadium.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of similarities to the Hoover Met because it can play really large as well. But while Tennessee has the second most home runs it's ever hit in a season, and the Volunteers are number 2 in the SEC in the long ball, Tennessee leads the Southeastern Conference in doubles. So you've got more than 130 doubles. So this is a team that's very comfortable and has shown an ability to find the gaps as well as just load the bases, whether it be walks drawn, which they're number 2 in the conference in, or just to work a base hit past the infield. So I do think Tennessee is as comfortable if the ball doesn't leave the yard as when it does for the 2 or 3 run home run. But it's more about what it was the other day that you weren't able to make the most of, and that is getting guys on and then getting that big hit. I'll be surprised if Tennessee doesn't have a much better day offensively today, even though the numbers against Texas or the numbers by Texas are stronger than it was against Virginia.
How much of that would you credit to Vitello's ability to, and he was very honest about his team after the loss, but how he's able, what you've seen in the past of him being able to rally the troops, so to speak, of be like, all right, wasn't our day, we didn't play our best. These are the things we need to work on. But how has he been able to, I guess, do that in times that you've seen them have a bad game and then turn around and try and have a good one?
Well, a lot of it he credits to the players themselves, because we were approaching the tail end of the season, and I said, so at this stage of the year, is your team stronger offensively, defensively, or on the mound, or is it an intangible? And he said what he likes most about this team is its grit and determination. And he says if you can have that as your reputation, then you're on the right track, because that in itself is just an outstanding compliment to each guy in the lineup. So I do think this, and he said today, if we don't see that this is a determined bunch, then we're going to pull it out of them. So I do think while he's not one for the rah-rah speech, he is somebody that is very pointed with his comments that he chooses to make with his team before they head out on the field. But I also think this is such a veteran team. I mean, you've got a group of 4 guys that have been a part of this roster for 5 years. They were on the team that won just the 7 conference games the year before Tony Vitello took over. And then you look at their first class that is now juniors, that they have really done a great job of just growing, like Max Ferguson at second, or Jake Rucker at third, Connor Pavoloni behind the plate. And then you have a couple of youngsters, Drew Gilbert in center, Jordan Beck in right, that have come in behind. So I just think that with the experience this team has, that you don't have to stoke that flame, because they do a really good job of doing that themselves.
Well, it's gonna be fun to watch, and we'll be paying attention. John, appreciate the time, and we'll do it again soon.
Sure do appreciate the invitation, guys, and it should be a lot of fun. Any season that ends in Omaha has been an outstanding year. This is just the 3rd team with 50 wins, and here's hoping number 51 comes this afternoon.
Absolutely. Here's John Wilkerson, the voice of the Vols, as just a little over an hour they will get things underway there in Omaha. We'll have much more coming here on Darren, Daunic, and Chase, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Your speaker at home is so smart that even Alexa knows where to find Nashville's best sports talk.
102.5 The Game is Nashville's best sports talk.
Ask Alexa to enable 102.5 The Game. Once enabled, ask Alexa to play 102.5 The Game.
Welcome to 102.5 The Game.
We are Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 News Code Red meteorologist Dan Guthrie. Yesterday's showers and storms cleared out all the heat and humidity, allowing us to have a much cooler and pleasant air mass in place today. Highs upper 70s, no humidity.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face truck today.
Kitchen Notes in the Omni Nashville Hotel is one of Nashville's favorite places to dine, serving up their award-winning menu items again. Kitchen Notes is renowned for their Southern-inspired dishes with a contemporary twist. Their breakfast features the popular Music City omelets, sourdough pancakes, cast iron waffles. Plus, everyone knows that their Sunday brunches are the talk of the town. Lunch menu items include smoked prime rib, chicken hash, and the Kitchen Notes legendary shrimp and grits. Kitchen Notes is open Thursday through Sunday at 7 a.m. till 2 p.m.
In case you missed it, mortgage rates have plummeted back to their lowest points of the year. Hey, it's Willie Daunic. Don't miss this fresh new chance to lock in your forever loan with Loan Pronto. Call now and take advantage of Loan Pronto's special zero-cost refi program. You can snag a super low rate with no junk fee and no closing costs. And listen, they don't just roll closing costs into your loan. They cover them for you. Who else does this? If you thought you missed out on the best rates ever, you have another chance. Even if you refinance last month or last year, you can do it again. Loan Pronto's all-digital process is fast and easy. Most loans get closed in 14 days, and most don't even require an appraisal. Call Loan Pronto now and start the process before rates spike again. Do it now, and you can even skip your next 2 house payments. 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. If your current mortgage rate starts with a 3, you need to act now. 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender. NMLS 1661781. Subject to lender approval. Not all loans eligible for zero costs.
Show off your school spirit with Authentically American's new sweat tees that reveal a sweat-activated message featuring your favorite Nashville schools. It's your source for American-made fan gear. Visit authenticallyamerican.us.
Jared Stillman.
Dad, why are we doing this? Because I said so. That's how Mike Vrabel is running the operation, at least with the fans.
And company.
Getting the because I said so answer doesn't give us anything.
Tune in Stillman and Company for your drive home. Weekday afternoons from 2 to 6 on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Interact with Darren, Daunic, and Chase. Call or text the show at 615-737-1025. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
Good stuff from John Wilkerson from Omaha. A little bit more than an hour away. Tennessee and Texas will do battle. Don't forget, Nashville SC fans, you can join 94.9 Monday nights, 7 to 8. NSC Backstage. They had their first installment of it last night with the captain, Max McCarty, Nashville SC players and coaches, Monday special guest. The next show will be head coach Gary Smith. So you can watch it online via 1025's our games, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and theGameNashville.com. NSC Backstage, brought to you by Camarena Tequila, the official tequila of Nashville SC. As I mentioned, Tennessee and Texas, an elimination game today coming up at 1 o'clock our time. And then in the nightcap tonight, it'll be Mississippi State and Virginia. One of those two teams is going 2-0 to start off the College World Series, just like NC State is. So we'll see. Can it be another ACC school, or will it be the first SEC school to start off 2-0? Mississippi State has looked really good, although Virginia looked good against Tennessee. But I like Mississippi State. I like the way they're playing right now. But we shall see. And then if you'd have told me between Tennessee and Texas, one of them's going home and not winning a game, I would have been a little bit surprised by that. But that is the case.
A lot of good arms on Mississippi State, but I am curious if they get into a close tie game or save situation, will they come back with Landon Sims, who threw 3 innings to close out the 2-1 gem that they had against Texas?
Yep.
1 day's rest, maybe for an inning. I don't know. It depends on how he recovers. How does he feel after the 1 day off? But that's a tricky one. They're a really good team. They could win the whole thing, no question. Big game tonight.
I have found myself, and I realize it's, two teams in our state. It's a team in our market. I get it. The intrigue is there because it's Tennessee and Vanderbilt. So I'll just say that on the front end, and it kind of falls in the duh category. But I have really been glued to the College World Series. I have watched a lot of college baseball, and I've really enjoyed it. It's been really good, and I'll continue watching even tonight when it's not a Vanderbilt or a Tennessee. I'll watch the Tennessee-Texas game this afternoon, obviously, but, I just have found myself really intrigued. Now, if Tennessee and Vanderbilt are out, then it'll put me to the test. Will I still have interest in the College World Series? I hope I don't have to find that out. I hope I don't have to answer that question, because I hope both of them, or at least one of them finds a way to get there at the end. But
I still want both. I think it'd be great now that they're both in the losers bracket to battle out of that and still meet. Like that'd make it even more intriguing. But I know that's obviously a tall test.
I would say you would get pretty big odds on that happening right now. On the
sure, those odds are out there somewhere
on DraftKings and BetMGM. Bet you could get some really, really big odds. It's just so hard. I mean, what was it they said? What was the stat last night? 25 out of the last 30 national champions have gone 2-0.
Yeah,
that's how big that game was.
It's the best path to go, of course, but you just have to try to battle that. If it's like John said, you don't want to be in the situation, but hey, you're in there, so you have to get that mindset. We are going to take one game at a time, and we are going to win 4 in a row, or in Vanderbilt's case, 3 in a row. But you can't do anything until you win your next game. So, what is Stanford? I don't know a whole lot about Stanford. They were impressive yesterday. They opened up the game very early. Then Arizona came back and made it a game. Stanford came right back and took control and won going away. They probably didn't have to use a whole lot of pitching in that game to close it out. That's the advantage that they will have over Vanderbilt. They'll probably have a pretty fresh bullpen. But these are the things you start getting to. Who's your number 3 starter? How good is he compared to the other 2 guys? How's he pitching lately, right? It's not just what have you done all year, but how have you pitched the last few times out? How do you match up with the other? There's a lot of things that can affect, how you are equipped to go through the losers bracket if you're Vanderbilt or Tennessee.
Well, I have odds. I just pulled some odds up. And I'm actually looking on your sports book there, Darren.
Okay.
So right now, who would you guess is the favorite to win it all?
Who is the favorite? Boy, that's
plus 200.
NC State is the only 2-0 team right now. Is that right?
Yeah. Correct. So I'm just going to play the math game, and I'll say it's got to be NC State.
Yeah, just because they're 2-0.
You'd be correct. They are plus 200 to win it all.
Just because they're in a position nobody else is in right now.
Plus 275 is the next one.
Mississippi State.
Yep. All right. Then you have plus 425 for a team, plus 450 for a team.
I'm going to say
Virginia.
Yep.
As a 1-0 team. It's just, again, the math game. So the question is, what are the odds for the teams that have a loss? How do they stack up?
Vanderbilt's plus 450. And then Texas and Tennessee are both plus 1,000. Stanford's plus 1,100 to win it all.
All right. Then they will change again tomorrow.
Yes, they will.
Drastically, because the winner of Mississippi State, Virginia, their odds are going to shoot up.
What were NC State's odds after they lost 21-2?
I would
of
say
winning the next 2 games. It just shows you. It's just that's why we love sports. Is these things. It's only what they are. What they are. It doesn't mean that you can't do it.
Well, I'll give you some odds. They were a 3.5 run underdog in game 2 to Arkansas.
Okay.
You do not see 3.5 runs.
That's a high. Yeah.
That is very high in a super regional facing elimination. 3.5. That was the over under. I mean, that was the line. Arkansas favored by 3.5 runs. And you rarely ever see that. That just tells you what they were. And of course, NC State won the game, as we know.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out let's try to, and Chase, pull up the schedule if you can and cross check me on this. So Vanderbilt plays Stanford tomorrow. Then they would have a day off, or they would come right back and play Thursday?
Who?
Vanderbilt?
No. Friday. So you would get another day off. Right?
And they would play NC State, right?
Yeah.
It's Wednesday and then Friday.
Okay. So they play tomorrow, have to win. Day off. So then Friday, you have to win Friday and Saturday, correct? Against NC State, in theory. Do I have that right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, so let's do the pitching chart, right? So you could bring Kamar Rocker back on Saturday with pretty much full rest for his second start, right? So you would need a good start from Patrick Riley or Christian Little today, and then a good start from the other one on Friday. And by tomorrow, they'll have the full complement of their relief pitchers ready to go, right? Thanks to Leiter going the full 8 innings. They didn't have to use anybody else, so they'll have fresh arms. And I don't think either one of Little or Riley will have a chance to have a complete game. If you got 5 or 6 innings out of those guys, I think you'd be really happy with that. So that's how it plays out. You would have Rocker with his regular rest on Saturday night if you could get to that game. Of course, NC State will be sitting back. They'll have, in theory, their number 3 starter on Friday, and then their number 1 on Saturday.
Yep. All right, we'll come back. Hour number 3. We're going to get back into the Predators discussion to kick off the third hour. That's next on Darren, Daunic, and Chase, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
From West End to Nolensville,
he's taken the next step.
We Sports Talk,
ESPN
102.5 The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Get up to 50% off at the Electronic Express incredible 4th of July sales event. Save big on the latest HD TVs, home and car electronics, computers, tablets, and more. Take the fun outdoors this summer with Yeti coolers and Ramblers, and smartwatches from Fitbit, Samsung, and Garmin. Electronic Express has chest freezers in stock and ready to deliver. Plus, get huge savings on all appliances. Get up to 36 months free financing at Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Yo, it's Teron Davenport here to tell you about my friends at Freedom Tire Guys. They're Nashville's premier mobile tire company, and they do it all. New tires, balance, rotation, everything. Bill, a recent customer of theirs, loved the way they came to him and saved him time and money. So if you're like Bill, you like convenience, and you need some new tires, check out freedomtireguys.com. If you don't see the tires you like, give them a call, and they'll find them for you. Check them out today at freedomtireguys.com.
Time is running out on the hottest financing deal of the year at Genesis Diamonds. You have until June 30th to take advantage of this, so don't waste time. Right now, pick any item at Genesis, pay nothing down, and spread your payments over 5 years without paying a dime in interest. All GIA certified diamonds are included, so it's a great time to celebrate your love and upgrade her diamond. Or surprise her for your anniversary with a stunning Eternity band or designer necklace. You're going to get the best Genesis price and lock in zero interest financing for 5 whole years with zero down. If you've had your eye on something, now is the time to make the move, because this offer makes everything more affordable. An $8,000 tennis bracelet for just $134 a month. A $6,000 diamond pendant, just $100 a month. An opportunity like this doesn't come around often, so don't miss this. Genesis will even be open this Sunday for your convenience. 5 years, zero interest financing with nothing down. Now through June 30th, only at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs, on approved credit.
Nashville's best sports talk, locally owned, home of our Nashville Predators. WPRT FM Pegram, 97.5 Murfreesboro, WBUZ HD2 Laverne, online at thegamenashville.com. We are
ESPN
102.5 The Game. Live from the Wholesaling Studios, powered by RumbleOn.com. It's time for Darren, Daunic, and Chase, with hosts Darren McFarland, Willie Daunic, and Chase McCabe on Nashville's best sports talk,
ESPN
102.5 The Game.
O'clock hour, Darren, Daunic, and Chase, ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming on the Game Nashville app. Chase McCabe, Darren McFarland, Willie Daunic here with you. Darren, I grabbed it there because heard the music going out, so I just wanted to help you out there.
Yeah. All right, let's get back into some things that we were discussing in the second hour. Asked you, what is number one on David Poyle's list of things to do? This is a very, very important offseason. And look, Predators fans, I don't know how many are watching. I'd love to know. We've talked about it, but I always wonder in this market. I think whenever, the runs were there, I think the interest was much, much higher just because everybody was just wrapped up into, what was going on with hockey. Even though they were disappointed, they were wrapped up. So now of 3 straight years where it's been going the wrong direction, I do wonder how many people in this market are paying attention, or do they just say, hey, see whenever the Predator season starts back up again? I don't know the answer to that. I'd love to know. I mean, are they tuning in to see the Lightning and the Islanders? Are they tuning in to see the Canadians in Vegas tonight? Or are they just like, hey, let's pay close attention to what the Predators do this offseason, and we'll see when next season gets cranked up. I suspect most are in that boat. I hate that, but that's probably where the masses are. Obviously, we're paying close attention to that, but this offseason is big because to keep that interest that I was just talking about, you have to be, really competitive. You have to be in the thick of things. And I think that window of the magical run, the season after that, I think they couldn't get enough of hockey, right? It was just, they were all in. And then things have kind of gone the other direction. So I don't know what the mindset is, but nonetheless, I know that they're paying close attention to what happens this offseason. So this is a big, big offseason. They're going back into a division. I don't know how you guys feel. I kind of feel like even though Colorado's in there, gosh, I feel better about the division than what they just had to experience. I mean, Tampa, Carolina, and Florida was no walk on the tulips. I mean, that was at times murderer's row. I mean, they were the top 3 teams in hockey. So maybe the division switch going back to what they've been accustomed to over the years will only help, even though you've got a special team like the Avs. Minnesota had a nice season. St. Louis, not sure what they are. What is Winnipeg?
How would you rank them right now?
I don't know.
Well,
besides Colorado, probably Minnesota
in
too.
In a general sense, I think we went over this once before, but this is how I would put it. It's going to be different in that there won't be as many juggernauts at the top, probably, but there are not going to be the weak teams at the bottom. Fair to say?
You're saying there's not a Detroit in the division?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say that's fair.
I don't see a Detroit in the division, a team in a full rebuild, right? Chicago's going to be another step ahead. They were supposed to be in the full rebuild for a lot of reasons, and they actually overachieved for a good while. But they have a pretty young group. I think they're going to feel pretty optimistic. I don't know. I think for the Predators to be where they want to be, they've got to be better than the Blackhawks next year. But the Blackhawks aren't going to be any pushover. The Jets are a really interesting one. What do? They still got some of those familiar guys that we've seen for years in those battles in that division. Scheifele and Wheeler and all those guys. But what do they look like? We didn't see them very much. They still got Hellebuck, but they've got some holes, right? They've got some big issues there. Now they've got Pierre-Luc Dubois. What do they do with him? Can they sign him long term? They've got him under contract for one more year, I think. What's
St. Louis?
What's St. Louis is a great one. They're removed now. They don't have Pietrangelo. They're removed from their championship team a little bit more, but they still have a lot of strong pieces.
Yeah.
Are they
I don't know.
better than Columbus? Are they better? I think yes.
Honestly, I feel like Nashville, Winnipeg, and St. Louis kind of look and feel the same.
Yeah.
How about Minnesota?
How about Dallas?
How about Dallas?
Dallas is intriguing because some of their pieces are aging, but they're getting some important pieces back. They also have some young pieces that just continue to get better. I don't know. That Dallas is an intriguing one too. I don't know what they are. That's why I'm saying I kind of feel like it's Colorado and then
everybody else.
You tell me.
Yeah. Teams. Now, Minnesota, I think I might be the inside track for the second pick just because they had a lot of things kick in. They got a great season from, the rookie.
I'm not willing to go there.
Kaprizov.
They've got a lot of aging players
Fiala
too.
has made a jump. No, they've got it, but you got to look, Darren. They got to look. They still have a couple of those old guys, but they've got a young group that is coming on.
What is Parise? What is he?
The
guy who was getting healthy scratched,
and they
right.
So they don't rely on him anymore.
Okay.
Fortunately,
so
he still takes up room on the cap.
Okay.
But Joel Eriksson Ek and some of these other guys are good.
Well, the whole point of the conversation, though, shifts back to the Predators. And you used the line, Darren, that this is a very, very important offseason. I think that this could be – no, I won't say could. I think this is the most important offseason in David Poyle's tenure.
I would agree with that.
Because
I think there's a lot at stake for the future.
Because I believe that we all know the fan base is restless. For a majority, they are restless.
They've been restless for a good while.
And they are more vocal than ever about the job that David is doing as the general manager. There's respect for most people. There's respect that he's the architect and he's done a lot of the good things, but they look at the last few years since being eliminated by Pittsburgh and how it has just kind of gone down the wrong direction after big moves have been made. That's all on David Poyle. I mean, that just it is. You've made the coaching change, Darren. You've pointed this out several times that you've done that move, and so now all eyes are going to look on David. It would appear that he's they're John Hines is the head coach, David Poyle's the GM going into this offseason. I think we all agree that that's what this is. But what does it look like moving forward? And how much is that being discussed behind the scenes of what does it look like moving forward? This offseason, I believe, is going to dictate a lot of that. And it's from both sides. It's from the side of, okay, the Predators looking at it, and it's from David's side. How much longer does he want to do this and take a shot at it? This is not going to be just a move here and there and boom, it's back. I mean, we talked about it earlier in the show. You got to move money. You got some big contracts that are holding you back, and you're not getting the production out of those players, and so that's why it's holding you back. But again, that falls on him. So if he's able to pull it off where you get one of them, I have been vocal in saying it's Duchesne. You move Duchesne's contract, whatever you got to do to move him to Seattle, you do that. If he's able to do that, if he's able to potentially bring in, a big-time, big boy forward, just your game-changing forward, do that somehow, okay.
Well, can you stop right there, pause right there for a second? That has not gone well for them.
It hasn't.
So do you really want them to keep throwing that dart? Because that dart has not worked. It's missed the board. And I don't want to throw shade your way, Chase, but you know about missing the dartboard, okay? I've seen the video.
Yeah, but I also hit the dartboard eventually. Once I get going, I get.
I know, but I didn't see that video.
I know.
I saw the part where you missed a lot.
People like to conveniently send the ones that create the narrative.
You're saying it's skewed toward
it's a little
one
skewed,
way?
but that's okay.
They haven't done well, in all seriousness. This has been close to an epic failure.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to throw money at guys to come in here and be what you just described has been pretty much an epic failure. So do you want to keep going down that path? I know I was guilty earlier of, okay, what about Mitch Marner? What about Jack Eichel? I didn't say I was for it. I was just throwing it out there. I didn't say I was against it either, but that really hasn't worked well.
You're right, but would you agree that they are missing that? You're right. They haven't found.
But everybody's looking for that.
They haven't found the right ones. Apparently, that's what it appears. And I was all on the Duchesne bandwagon. Full disclosure, I was all about it. Now I'm sitting here saying, how do you get rid of him? It hadn't worked. Kyle Turris didn't work. Ryan Johansson has worked. Maybe not to the extent that everybody, hoped, but it's worked. They don't make it to the Stanley Cup final without him. Even when he got hurt, he got them to that point or helped them get to that point. So he's worked. But I agree with you. I understand the ones that they have gone after, for the most part, they've missed. But at the same time, we can't. How many more off seasons are we going to have? Can Philip Forsberg go to that next level? Can he be that guy?
I'm kind of past all that stuff. It's just we've talked about it till we're blue in the face. It's like at some point either it's going to happen or it's not. It's like keep keep saying that over and over and
you have
over
to
again.
re-sign him.
I know, Willie, and it's a.
Well, I'm saying you don't have to resign it, but you have to keep
point.
playing that game.
Yes,
if you're going to invest in him again, you have to be assessing: are you going to get the same? And
what's his value?
What's the value for the same production?
Right. What's his value? That is
I think he's a little bit more of a known quantity than somebody you bring in from the outside.
Of course, but what is it? What is the?
But I think he needs a complimentary
piece. He's a 30-goal scorer.
Oh, okay. So what does that pay?
That's the question.
He's making what, 6 right now?
I think that's right.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
I would say 6 or 7. Somewhere in that range.
There's a lot of X factors too. The flat cap is a big one. What's his desire to stay here? Is he willing to take a little less? He's engaged. I think he might might prefer to stay. If he goes to the open market, I think he's the kind of guy that people will overpay for. I think that's his reality.
No, I agree.
Well, guys
like him don't become free agents very often.
Yeah, but teams typically overpay, and that's
what I'm saying. But
that's a good thing.
That makes it harder for you to re-sign him unless he's willing to say, like a lot of the Predators, to their credit, I really don't care about hitting the open market. I like it here. I'm staying here.
But I will say this: you don't keep somebody because somebody else is going to overpay. That's a bad recipe. Well, if we don't overpay, somebody else will overpay. That's a bad way of going about business.
They haven't really had to do that other than Johansson. I think they really were worried that if he hits the open market, he's gonna make a lot of money. And so I think they had to overpay for a center of his caliber at that time. His stock was pretty high.
I would agree with this is maybe the biggest offseason David Poyle's ever faced. And I'm with you. I should throw out the word maybe. I think it's pretty clear. This is a huge, huge offseason.
You don't think last year was a huge offseason?
It was, but I think this is bigger.
It was, but
why is this one bigger than last year?
Because every year that goes by, and what Chase was talking about, things get louder and louder. And I mean, if this upcoming year has missed the playoffs or another first round exit, do you think you can really just keep coming back with status quo everything? And this,
there was nothing status quo about what they did last year. They changed a lot last year.
Yeah, right. But we're talking about one piece in particular. David Poyle's the GM. He's made these moves. And for the past 3 years, it's been first round exits. Dallas, the bubble this year. It's been first round exits. And when you get as close as they did, and everybody's sitting here thinking this window's wide open, they're going to be back. I saw a post that
there was no status quo. Okay, the status quo was after they lost to the Jets, right? Peter Laviolette came in and he said it. My meeting with David Poyle, I want this same group to come back and have another chance. And essentially that's what they did.
The players said that. The players said they wanted
and Peter Laviolette said that.
Right.
And David Poyle obliged.
And he did. It didn't work.
Came back. Well, they won the division. They won the division in the division that the Stanley Cup champion came out of. A very, very tough division. They won it. It's not like they were a bad team, but they did not do well in the playoffs, as we know. It's not easy to do well in the playoffs. So at that point, they brought in Duchesne, right? They rid themselves. They traded the PK Subban contract. They brought in Matt Duchesne. That was a big move. So it's not status quo, right? But in doing so, in reality, they took a step back. Fair to say? Am I wrong?
You're missing the point of status quo. You're off base on. Chase understands what I'm saying with status quo. You're acting like status quo as in moves. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about there's two things. I've said it over and over and over again that haven't changed in all of this. The general manager and the core players. At some point, you can't keep doing the same thing and expect different results. That's what I'm getting. That's status quo. It's not about moves that were made in the offseason. I understand
it's not about moves. Status quo means you don't do anything. You just keep rolling the same thing out there. They have not done status quo. They changed the coach in the middle of the 20 season. I think they took a step back overall because I thought that team really was struggling to find an identity, and really I think that was the lowest point on this graph since the Stanley Cup run was at the end of last season. The return to play, the disappointment of losing to the Coyotes, and as a result, there were the biggest changes last year where they just basically said, we're changing our identity. We've got to get tougher. We've got to get more sandpaper.
I was the first person to scream that right after the season ended.
And they did that. And they did that. So I feel like their graph was going down. Last year, they addressed it with a pretty good size host of changes, right? The Nick Bonino trade, letting Craig Smith go to free agency. There was a long list of things.
Letting Granlund go. I mean, I think we all thought he was going to be gone, and it worked out.
Right, he came back, but I just think they had a better season this last year than they had the year before. And honestly, I think they now have an assessment. They now have an identity that they can build off of. I think the question is now, how do you build off of it? And it's a very difficult job. But I think when you say it's been status quo for 4 years, I don't think that's an accurate way of putting it.
But
I didn't say well, first of all, the last 2 years before this year, I think were worse. I mean, they had. I mean, embarrassed is a strong word. They had no chance against Dallas. It was very obvious they were not beating the Stars. They weren't the better team, period.
They were up 2-1.
They were not the better team. If you were watching that series, and I know you were, they were not the better team. They were getting pushed around. They were getting skated past. They just were not the better team. Dallas was the better team. It was the first rut row moment of, wow, man. I was, by the way, I liked that matchup.
It didn't have a good feeling.
It had a horrible feeling.
They surged at the end to win the division to play the fourth-seeded Dallas. And as we know, Dallas turned out
that was a good
Dallas
matchup.
was building to a point where they were coming on, right? They took St. Louis to Game 7. The following round.
Don't tell me though. I understand what Dallas did. I'm talking about the series against the Predators.
Cup finals last year.
They were not competitive in that series. They just weren't.
Dallas
was the better team. It was very easy. Really, we're going to play this game? I mean, you act like
that series.
Dallas was the better series. They were the better team in that series.
Yes,
period.
They were the better team,
and everybody knew it.
I'm just saying the Predators led 2-1, and they lost the last game in overtime where they could have forced a Game 7, which they would have had on home ice. I'm just saying there's a fine line of saying you got dominated and.
Did you feel good about that series?
I didn't feel good at all about that series.
Exactly. That's.
But I'm just telling you, you're never that far. You're never. Things are never that good and never that bad in terms of the NHL, where it's such a fine line in a salary cap. There's so little difference between having huge success and having what is perceived to have huge failure in the playoffs.
And you know what? This show has said that many, many times and have defended a lot of things. But at some point, you can't keep just saying the same thing over and over again. Like we've said all those things.
But what are you proposing? Blow it up? Are you saying just blow it up, start over, and
no?
I'm saying years of
I'm simply asking the question: where do you think they are in the landscape? Where do you think they are in the lay of the land moving forward? Like how close or how far do you think they are?
You're talking about this year's playoffs. What would you have said about Montreal going into the playoffs? Montreal wasn't predicted to have great success in the regular season. They didn't have a great regular season, and here they are. A very, very good chance of getting to the Stanley Cup final. It's a possibility.
And they can build.
The Islanders are not a loaded roster. Their captain got hurt. He's not playing. Anders Lee. They made some really shrewd trades. They play a really good system, and they have a chance to force a Game 7 against one of the best teams of the era in Tampa Bay.
Nobody's questioning things in that market about the Islanders where they are. Since Barry's been there, they have exceeded all expectations.
100%
since Barry's been there. So nobody's questioning where they are in the lay of the land or the landscape of their division or the Eastern Conference.
And a year before that, everybody was questioning everything about the Islanders for about 30 years, right? Not 30, about 20, right? From 1993 until a couple of years ago, they hadn't even won a playoff series. So they were the most bungling franchise going. And suddenly, here it is. It's a really tricky thing. There's so little difference between this. So I know it's easy to look at, well, what have they not done? But I'm trying to point out where are they now compared to 2 years ago? I think they've made some really good, significant strides.
Right. But
so the retooling is the key, and it's not an easy answer, and they do need to retool. I'm not sitting here saying stay status quo. I think there's got to be changes. The expansion draft sees to it that you're going to make changes.
Right.
So it has you assessing everything on your roster.
I hear what you're saying, but the reason that I say that this is David's most important offseason is if he's the one that's going to be responsible for doing the retooling, and he's the one that has been responsible for all of that.
Right. He has retooled in the past.
He has. And I respect it. I respect him. He's done a weekly on this show through the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we all have a great relationship with him. But you do have to look at things in the big picture. You know, it is.
So what is he not looking at? Are you saying just make a change because it's time to make a change?
No, I'm not saying.
That's why they let Barry Trotz go. It was changed to make a change. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying I'm trying to tell you. I'm saying that this offseason is where he has got to improve this team to a point where they go into next season and they are competing for the division. You feel like that this team has a chance that when they get to the playoffs that, yeah, you know what? They are going to get past the first round because let's be honest. It was a great run. It was fun to watch the resurgence this year. But if you're putting everybody on a lie detector to say, hey, do you think that they had a chance, really a legitimate chance with the team the way it was constructed to beat Carolina? The answer was no. I picked Carolina in 6.
Okay. What did you pick? You picked the Canadians. Why'd you pick them?
I didn't pick the Canadians.
You didn't pick the Canadians.
Well, you didn't pick the Canadians?
Elijah.
Okay. Well, then you would have said the same thing about the Canadians. They beat Toronto.
I understand, but I wasn't worried.
What did the Canadians have that the Predators didn't have?
Playing Toronto.
They were playing Toronto, exactly.
Well, that's a fair point.
They were playing Toronto.
Okay.
I love, like I said, I love the resurgence, and it's something to build on. I think John Hines has finally gotten the players to buy in fully to what his system is. I love the fact he's going to have a full training camp to finally, go along with that. And so I'm not saying blow it up and change everything now. I'm just saying that you got to take a huge step. Otherwise, you're going to have to take a tough look at, all right, is it time? Is it time for maybe David to move up into the, in the front office and not be the GM and not be the only one making the decisions? That's what I'm asking. Because as Darren pointed out earlier, going after these big boy forwards that a lot of these teams that are successful have, it hasn't worked out.
They didn't do that last year.
I understand, but they've done it and it hadn't worked out. Duchesne hasn't worked out. Bottom line, it hasn't worked out. I was for it. A lot of people were for it. I sat in the studio with you the day they signed him, and you and I were giddy about it. A lot of people were.
So in that respect, that's what I don't understand is you want to go for it. You want to make a quote big jump. So they tried to do that and it didn't work out. And so now you're second guessing all that stuff. Nobody, I mean, Darren, I think you were the one that had reservations about Duchesne, and I think I did too, just knowing that they already had Turris. To me, that's still the one, if you could have a do-over, that you would look at, because it created part of why they are where they are today. But I'm just pointing out that when you're saying you got to make a big jump, you got to do stuff, you can't just stay status quo. They've done that. they've done that the last 2 off seasons with some pretty major moves. And I think this year they will, just because of the expansion draft, there's going to be moves, but I think they will again attempt to make changes. And I think they will make changes. And regardless of what they do, they're not going to be predicted to win the Stanley Cup, no matter what they do. Colorado is going to be the overwhelming favorite in the Central Division. So you're going to have to win by doing it more like Montreal, more like the Islanders, teams like that are great, quote, teams that play a great team game, get really good goaltending, solid defense, and good scoring up and down your lineup with a good hard edge, good system. That's how, and you can win that way. I think that's what they're trying to build right now. It's not going to be with flashy moves with the big scorer and stuff. They're not in position to do that right now.
Jason, you're going to tell us about BetMGM.
I sure am. You bet I am. I messed that up. Score a major payday with BetMGM. It's the best time to sign up for the king of sportsbooks because they're giving new customers a shot at an easy $100. Just register using the code 1025game100 and win $100 in free bets when you place a $1 moneyline wager on my Braves or Willie's Mets. And if either team hits a home run, you win, regardless of your bet's outcome. Whether you're raising the stakes on basketball or hockey playoffs or wagering on your favorite baseball team, BetMGM is always ready for action. Enjoy innovative parlay selection builders, daily promotions, boosted odds specials, and more. Download the app or go to BetMGM.com. Use that code 1025game100 to win $100 when you bet $1 on the Braves or the Mets and either team hits a home run. New customer offer, paid in free bets. You must be 21 years or older, must be in Tennessee. Visit BetMGM.com for full list of terms and conditions. For problem gambling support, call the Tennessee Red Line at 800-889-9789.
Listen to us talk sports out of our app. There are some positives.
How could you do this?
Single.
Release. Tell us.
Bye.
You're cut.
Day.
Outstanding cameo performance.
Just search The Game Nashville in your app store and download today. And keep it locked on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
1025 The Game.
Nashville SC keeps building. While the new stadium is under construction, there's no better time to get in and see what we're building on the pitch right now.
Fireball! A comet screaming from the foot of Hadi Mukhtar!
It's soccer season in Tennessee, and it's time to get in Wednesday, June 23rd for Nashville SC versus Toronto FC at 7:30 p.m. Tickets on sale now at NashvilleSC.com. Get in for the 2021 season.
How'd you like that?
Buy from where the dealers buy at Wholesale Inc. in Mount Juliet, powered by Rumbalong. They're rebuilding to be bigger and better than ever and are ready to put you in the vehicle of your dreams. They'll even trade or buy anything with a VIN number. Cars, trucks, motorcycles, motorhomes, boats, and more. Buying a used vehicle should be fun and exciting, not stressful and boring. For those reasons, Wholesale Inc. makes it simple to browse and shop thousands of used cars, trucks, SUVs, and more at WholesaleInc.com. When you're in the market for a quality pre-owned vehicle, buy from where the dealers buy. Wholesale Inc. on Eastgate Boulevard in Mount Juliet and WholesaleInc.com.
The return to Nashville. Garth Brooks. For the first time ever, the tour coming to Nissan Stadium. Tickets on sale 10 a.m. Friday, June 25th at Ticketmaster.com/Garth Brooks. Saturday, July 31st, Nissan Stadium. Presented by Amazon Music.
Jay Farner here, CEO of Rocket Companies. If you've been thinking about refinancing, right now is the perfect opportunity to save big with our Rocket Mortgage Prime Sale. Lock your rate by June 22nd, and you'll get an additional quarter point off today's already low mortgage pricing. But hurry, you only have hours left to save. Call today at 8338-ROCKET or go to rocketmortgage.com. Rocket.
Exclusions apply. Cannot be combined with other offers. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states and MLSConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
This is Carl Sholin, St. Andrew Sewanee School Head of School. At SAS, students prepare for the challenges and joys of college and life by taking increasing responsibility for their own learning. Learn more about fall admission at sasweb.org.
Tonight, it's Game 5 of the intense Stanley Cup semifinal series between the Vegas Golden Knights and Montreal Canadiens. Coverage begins at 7:30 on ESPN, 1025 The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, Nashville, this is new Vanderbilt head coach Jerry Stackhouse. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 1025 The Game.
Thanks, Coach Stack. 94.9 is the home. Your Nashville Sounds baseball. Tonight, Sounds take on the Charlotte Knights. That's the AAA affiliate for the Chicago White Sox. Boo at First Horizon Park. Pre-game show begins at 6:50. First pitch at 7:05. Nashville Sounds baseball on 94.9, presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans and 312 Pizza Company. Bernard Pollard will join us sometime in the fourth and final hour. Back here on Darren, Daunic, and Chase. We're talking about this Predators offseason. Let me just say, that was a good discussion in that last segment. We have been, look, everything we've said on this show is everybody's opinion has been on record and said multiple times over. I was the first one to stand up there, or not first one, maybe the one on this show. David Poile, as rowdy as the fans were, deserves to see this through, and he's deserved the right to figure out what to do at the trading deadline. And we have defended David Poile and all that good stuff. That's all on record. It's there. We've also defended things that have taken place. I'm just simply bringing up some of the offseason moves that they have to make, because I think this is extremely difficult, because here is where I'm at with this roster right now. Outside of Roman Josi, and you brought up UC Saros, who's an RFA, it's going to get done. I don't know what the terms are going to be. I don't know how long it's going to be. It's going to get done.
Sure, but
UC
how it gets done is
and
very
Roman
important.
Josi are the two most important players on this team. And what I'm trying to figure out, and this is where I'm not envious being the general manager, because, yeah, it's hard. Because think about all the fans out there who would have absolutely pulled the trigger on Wayne Simmons. 100% would have pulled the trigger on Wayne Simmons. And how many fans were very, very excited when that move happened? And then when it was over, they were like, that was a terrible move. That was terrible. Well, guess what? You'd have done the same thing, and it didn't work out.
That is the
same thing with Matt
remembered.
Duchene. And let me just tell you, go peel back the tape. I wasn't against it, but I certainly was not over the top, and I had reservations and I had hesitations about it. And I guarantee you, if you go back and listen to the audio, I was telling you guys, these numbers you're throwing out there for Matt Duchene is absolutely bonkers, and you guys thought I was bonkers. Because I remember one point you were like, well, if you're not going to pay him $9 or $10 million and you're not getting him, I'm like, then I'm not getting him. I'm out.
I wasn't on the show.
Okay? I did not say that. In fact, I was in the $7 million range, 7.5, 7.75. And quite honestly, I wasn't that comfortable with that, because I kept quoting Floyd Reese. Just because you pay somebody a certain rate doesn't mean they turn into that player. Yeah. I like him. I think he's a solid player. I like him as a person to deal with. I think he's a good locker room guy. I got no issues with him. But everybody is wanting Matt Duchene to be something I don't believe and never did think that he was. I think his body of work is what he is. And just because you give him more money doesn't turn him into that player. Ryan Johansson, the same thing. That's why I keep saying, can we please stop, wanting Ryan Johansson to be something that he's not going to be? He's good for about 14, 15 goals a season, but he does a lot of other things, and that's what he is. And you have to be willing to accept that. My problem is, where are they with the rest of the roster? That is where I'm concerned. Concern is that I don't have an answer.
That's where the
Josi
Saros contract
and
is
Saros are the no-brainers. They're 1 and 2, the most important pieces on this roster. You know what you have in them, and you know what you get from them night in and night out. Okay, who's next that you feel that way? I think we all like Philip Forsberg. We all like Ryan Ellis. We all like Matthias Ekholm. But you don't feel the same about them as the first two.
Well, I think you just hit on the nucleus. I don't know. I know people throw out Ryan Ellis's name. I don't feel it. I think Ryan Ellis is gonna stay, unless they were blown away with somebody just calling them up and saying, you know what, we love Ellis, we want him. You got a contract issue in terms of your cap, we'll take him. I just don't think there's a lot of teams out there in that position.
He's not in the first tier, in my opinion. He's the second.
He's under contract for a long time. He's going to be on their team. I think Ekholm, Forsberg, and Mikhail Granlund, to me, are the three that will have to be addressed this summer. Granlund, of course, is an unrestricted free agent, so he might be the most urgent. The other two you have a little more time on.
Not really, though, with Ekholm. You really don't. Because they've been down that road, too, right? I mean, good luck.
What do you mean?
You want to wait till the end? waiting until the end is not good.
No, but he and Forsberg each have another year on your contract.
Right.
So remember Roman Josi, it went into the season before they re-upped. You know, the regular season had started by the time.
But typically you don't want to do that. Typically.
No, you'd rather not. Ellis and Johansson got theirs done in the summer when they were in this position.
Yep.
But this is why I started the conversation with UC Saros, because what you sign him for is going to dictate to some level what you can offer those other three guys. And it may not get done in that order.
I don't think so. I really don't, because it's not going to be anything. It's not going to be 7 for 7. It's not going to be 7 for 49. It's not going to be that contract. So it's 3 years at $5 million a year. So it's $15 million, or it's 4 years at $4.5 million. And so it's just not a number that's truly going to dictate what you can do. That is not what's going to dictate what they can do. What's going to dictate what they can do is what we were talking about earlier. Can you find a way to rid yourself of a big contract? Can you find a way to get somebody to take a big contract? That is what's going to dictate how your offseason goes, in my opinion. It's not the UC Saros deal.
It's important.
It's important. It's not going to dictate it's not dictating your offseason. A big contract that you're already attached to long term is going to dictate your offseason.
Yeah.
They all come to that conclusion, you know, all collectively, all of those decisions. But I think we've all tried to do the math. Somewhere in there, you've got to not only alleviate some salary issues, but you also have to try to keep your team age a little younger, right? You've got to get a little younger. They did a good job from last year to this year getting a little younger, right? They infused their roster with rookies. They flipped Nick Bonino for Luke Cunnin. That's a move in the right direction to try to get a little younger, right? Because that's where their nucleus was aging some, and they're not old, right? They're just they're all in that high 20s, low 30s area where they're either in their prime or about to go past their prime. So if you got too many guys locked up in contracts for the next 4 or 5 years, like we've said before, all of a sudden a bunch of 29-year-olds are all going to be a bunch of 34-year-olds together with contracts that are not real exciting for other teams in terms of trying to move them. So that's got to be part of the equation too, not just the money, but also the age.
Yeah. Here's the other thing, because I pulled up Cap Friendly. So to kind of give you a reference, right now they have $18.6 million, but you obviously have work to do. You have Saros. You don't have a goaltender under contract. So Saros is an RFA. Peck is an unrestricted free agent. Fabro is an RFA. Tolvanen is an RFA. Now, I think we agree that Tolvanen's not going to cost you a lot, but
neither is Fabro.
What do you think? What do you think that'll be?
Well, I think honestly, because of Fabro and his struggles this past year, that probably not to anything they wanted to do, but that probably enables them to get him at a pretty good price. And that's an interesting thing. Is do you want to try?
He's arbitration eligible too.
You know, there's arbitration eligible is an interesting one to look at. But would you try a little? 2 years for Fabro, 3 years, and try to dangle a little less money, like the longer the term, a little less money. But remember, Colin Wilson was kind of in this boat, if I recall correctly, kind of like mixed bag. We like the player long term, but he hasn't done it yet. I remember Colin Wilson. I maybe we can look back and find it somewhere. It seemed like at this stage of his career, he sounded like a 3-year, 1.5. It ended up being a pretty good bargain. He can go to arbitration, but I think you're looking at, no more than less than $2 million, don't you think? For Fabro?
Yes. Yeah, that seems about right.
Probably less than $2 million for Tolvanen.
Yes.
Tolvanen might be like $1 million, right at it.
It just depends on how the term is.
And he's just he's a flat RFA. He's not arbitration eligible, so that one will be
So you could almost go year to year with him if you want to, or if you're him, right? Yeah, just
sure.
I think I'm on the verge of a breakout. Give me 1 year, and I'll show you next year that I'm worth a lot more than that. But those aren't going to break your bank. Those should be. Those are the kind of players you like because they're young. You can control them some, and hopefully get a big bang for your buck there, right? They were lacking in that area for a while. Now they have a few more of these guys, right? Not taking a lot of your cap, but making meaningful contributions. Carrier, they've got a great deal on him, right? He makes less than $1 million. They've got him tied up for another year or two, right?
What is Rocco Grimaldi making, Chase?
Rocco is $2 million.
$2 million for just next season?
Yep.
Yes.
So what's going to happen on the Rocco front? Because
I think
he looks like
not
a guy,
issue of how much he makes. It's
well, $2 million's $2 million. No, right. When you're talking about money, that is a big deal. If it's a guy that you don't see in the plans under head coach John Hines. So $2 million is a big deal. So what do you think they're talking about on that front? Because it does seem like, and I know you could tell he's been frustrated, that it doesn't seem like John Hines is maybe, I guess, in love with, his skill set when it comes to his system.
Well, he wasn't with Austin Watson either, and they traded him. I mean, Austin Watson fit more Peter Laviolette style and not John Hines, and they made the move. So
it does feel
I think Rocco gets traded.
Rocco is a great story because he was a guy that was buried in the AHL.
He was a high second-round pick by the Florida Panthers.
Right, that wasn't making it. He bounced around to a couple different organizations and could not get past that tag of AHL or 4A guy. And he, to his credit, elevated his game, was the right fit for the Predators, a good find for them.
And a fan favorite.
And he earned a fan favorite and earned that contract that he's under right now. But it's a double-edged sword. Now he's making $2 million. He's guaranteed $2 million. And since they changed coaches and changed styles, it doesn't quite fit his strengths as much, right? So
it seems that way, yeah.
I think you can see the way they used him. Like when they had all those injuries, he was in there, and he had some big games, right? He had a 4-goal game. He ended up with 10 goals. That was, in the top 6 or 7 guys on the team, right? On a team that didn't score a ton. So he brings something to the table. But when you're guaranteed $2 million, and there are other options that they have, I do think they might look around and see, is there a better fit? Like I wonder in Washington, is Peter Laviolette, who sort of is the guy that gave him the shot and that's where he made the jump, would he have an interest in him in Washington? Would he fit with the way they play a little bit better? That's a theory. I don't know. And then maybe some other teams going, hey, we're a speed team. This guy can really fly. That's the way we play. We could use him. Mm-hmm. I don't think you're going to get a whole lot back. But I do think that, and listen, if they brought Rocco back next year, I wouldn't have any problem with that. It's not like a $2 million salary kills your salary cap.
Well, if he's a guy that's not going to play on a consistent basis, I would have a problem with that.
Yeah, if he's a scratch.
You don't need a $2 million
a year
guy to be a healthy scratch.
But what the option then would be to buy him out, right? If you can't find a trade partner.
Oh, you would be. I agree with what you were saying. Somebody would take his services. Like you said, somebody's looking for a speed guy on the third line. I mean, come on. They absolutely would.
I'm just saying, if you don't find the deal that you like, could you hold on to him a little long? I think you could, right? Depending on what else is going on there.
No, I don't. Tell me that he's in the plans, and then I'm okay with it. If he's not in the plans, no, it doesn't make any sense. You have to know what their plans are, and the plans, it looks like, is that he just doesn't fit what John Hines wants him to do. So
you've got Tomasino, right? That you
which
somewhere
David
in there you got to try to create a little room for him.
That don't be surprised, right? It's almost like he's saying, don't be surprised. Like things to come. It's like the preview.
Right.
Tomasino coming theaters this summer.
And he's
this fall.
This is another thing we were saying repeatedly 1 year ago. And we had a lot of time to talk about it because there was nothing going on. There was no College World Series. There was no playoffs. I mean, we were sitting here going,
it was a simpler
we got nothing but time. We were saying, is the Big Ten going to play? Why do they not play in the SEC's play? Like these were our shows a year ago. but we talked about this a lot.
Don't bring that up again. Let's not even think about it.
The prospect list for the Predators, it was essential that Tolvanen took a jump. It was essential that Trennan took a jump. It was essential that Tomasino become a good player for them. And then we didn't even know about Tanner Jeannot and Olivier and Carrier, right, who all jumped in there and made really good contributions. But they desperately needed some guys to jump in there and push from the bottom. And they got that. So that puts them in a much, much better position. So Tomasino is huge, right, in terms of the big picture. They desperately need him to be a really good player for them. And they also need, from here, Tolvanen and Carrier and these guys we just mentioned to continue to get better, right? They can't just be what they are now. They have to continue to get better. I might even put Fabro in that box.
So, yeah, I would. So here's another one. What about Victor Arvidsson?
Great question.
Where are we at on him?
Great question.
That's why I said, outside of Saros and Yossi, I think you've got that next tier that we identified. And then there's a lot of questions. I mean, things you like and things that concern you.
All right, let's put it this way. This tough calls. I'm sure daily in the office they have some sort of, in the hockey ops department, some discussions about this. If the budget was you can keep Granlund or Arvidsson, who's more important? Like we have a deal we can trade Arvidsson, and that would free up the ability to bring back Granlund.
I think
I don't know if it's going to come down to that, but these are the kind of things that you have to sort of sort in your mind, right?
Is his body. Can he hold up? And I think that is a real concern that he's taken a beating over the years. And I feel like, Granlund was available, and Granlund does so much. I think everybody loves Victor Arvidsson, but it seems like every passing year there is a more growing concern of, is he ever going to return to what he was? Is his body going to allow him to return to what he was? And if the answer is no, then, you don't love Victor Arvidsson moving forward, because everybody loves, what he brings to the table when he's upright and he's healthy and he's able to do that, when his body allows him to do that. But, every passing year, that seems to be a little bit tougher pill to swallow, that we ever will see, that guy that was a fan favorite and everybody went nuts over and was getting 30 plus goals a season. It does seem like that's kind of in the rear view mirror. I don't know. I hope that, that there is more to come, but I don't know. It's a fair question. If you're saying one or the other, I think you would be hard pressed at this point, knowing how successful Granlund has been in Hines' offense and Hines' system. I just don't know, even as much as you love Victor Arvidsson, I don't know how you could say RV over Granlund when you think about this system, and John Hines is going to be the coach next year. If you're saying one or the other, I'd be hard pressed for somebody to say Arvidsson.
Yep.
And I would too.
I would too. And I think there's a scenario where they're both back, but then if they're both back, and Granlund has a new contract, and we're talking again about that age category that a lot of these guys are in, high 20s, right around 30, maybe on the other side of 30, under contract for a while. How many of those guys can you have? Because down the road, it's going to catch up. When they're all 34, 35, that's not good. So you can only have so many of those. So somebody's got, if they keep those two, then somebody else in that category is going to be moving. Right, we've already mentioned a bunch of them. Right, there's so many. You can go down the list.
You bringing back Haula?
That's another really good call. Like Haula was a good fit.
Well, he was a good fit, but second half of the season.
Yeah, it took a while.
Took a while, but he knows where he fits. They know where he fits.
I think
would you take it back at the same price?
What was he, like $1 million?
1.75.
1.75. Yeah.
Once again, you can keep. There's got to be room. I mean, you can't.
Got to be room for Tomasino.
You can't keep saying, "Hey, yeah, bring everybody back," but then squeeze in Tomasino and squeeze in like.
Well, yeah, because also, are you going to bring
any new faces?
Yeah,
I mean, what do you?
That's a good question.
Bringing back the exact roster. You just said status quo is not happening, so you can't keep everybody, or you can, and then you're bringing back the same roster.
Again, great questions.
I mean, we could go down the roster
I would
and
say,
give percentages for every player.
I think Halla is a wait and see. You know, I think he probably hits the market, and maybe somebody says, "Hey, I really liked how Halla played. Let's jump in there with a $2 million deal or something." I don't know what the market was not good for him last year, and I don't know that it will be much better this year.
Yeah.
But I really liked him in his role last year. But could you find somebody else if you didn't have him? Maybe for a similar price. I don't think his price is going to go up. You would have to have him come back at a similar price, maybe $2 million max.
I don't really think that's the issue. The issue to me
space.
Is space. It's like once again, you just tried him back the same roster. The book is closed on this offseason, and they're just bringing back the same roster and giving another go, or are you?
I don't think so. I think you're going to see expansion draft aside. I just kind of feel like that there's going to be a move that we're going to come on here and go, okay, and that is more of a departure. I don't know what's coming back the other way, whether that's Arvidsson or. I mean, Rocco wouldn't make us go, But like, if that's an Arvidsson or an Ellis, you know, they get a good offer for one of those guys and make a move. Then, but I just feel like there's something like that could be on the horizon.
I think it's pretty clear your only move can't be what Seattle takes.
No, that's what I'm saying.
We know that.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, I know, but when you say we know that, but we haven't really done anything in this discussion to prove that is anything other than what Seattle takes. You didn't leave any openings for new bodies.
If you want to make, all right, I'm being the GM. I told you what my first move was.
Mm-hmm.
I am calling Seattle and I'm saying, hey, I need you to take Duchesne. If you do that, I'll give you Fabro. And they let's just play the scenario. They go, sure, we'll do that. All right, there you go. Duchesne's gone, Fabro's gone. And then a team, you know, I'm just sitting there. I'm kind of got the phone, texting a little bit, talking. Then I work a deal with a team. Hey, Victor Arvidsson for mid-round pick, something like that. Okay, I'll do that. And then I'm going to talk to Forsberg. I'm going to talk to Ekholm. Where you at? Where you guys? What are you guys thinking? How we feeling? Try and get at least one of those. If everybody's in agreement, are we in agreement that they're going to be back? Is that kind of what we're thinking?
Well, I mean, David Poyle, especially on the Ekholm front, he was right. No hesitation.
He'd probably be the first one. He'd be the first one I'd take care of.
But let's go
Ekholm
back to
will be here. Well, did he not? I mean, he said that, right?
He said that.
I think it's very possible that he does that. And Chase, I think your moves are possibilities. I wouldn't rule out those two moves. I would rather not give up Fabro. I'd rather give up a first round pick, as I said earlier, because I'd like to hang on to Fabro. But if the net result of what you're talking about is you would move two guys in that category of high 20s at age, long-term contracts that take up. Now Arvidsson's only 4-point-something million, right? That's not $8 million. You know, you could have two. You do a lot with the extra money, but those are two sizable contracts with term that you would move out of there, right?
Yeah, I mean, with the moves I made, I just dropped about 15.
You just created some space for your salary cap. Now let's go the other way.
I'm going to go sign Ovechkin.
Who has the trade? Who has better? You just said, okay, Arvidsson for like a mid-round pick.
If you say
Duchesne, you're giving away plus another asset. Now, what if you turned that around and said, I'm going to trade Ekholm, I'm going to trade Forsberg, each have 1 year left on their deals. Those guys are much more attractive trade assets. True?
True. But I'm
you could get something for him. You could have a Luke Cunnin come in, you know.
But that's where
maybe something better than that.
So we've talked about Ellis. I've talked about Ellis before. I have always been the type that, you know, people would hate on Ellis, and I'm like, hey, you know, come on. He is a solid player. Now, do I feel like he is this elite player that maybe some do? No, I don't. So I keep him in my back pocket of if the right offer, and I mean the right offer, came along, and that includes whether it's picks that make my team better or another player that makes my team better, if I'm able to pull off these other things that I'm talking about, if that happens, then I'll listen. I will certainly listen. But, you know, and none of these moves are me making moves just to make moves. In regards to Forsberg and Ekholm is the one that I just think he is so underrated and so valuable to this team that he wants to be here. They want him here. I'm willing to get that one done. I'm willing to do that this summer.
How many years? He's 31. He's going to be 31.
He is 31.
He's 31. Currently, so he'll be 32 at some point during the season next year. Late in the season, I think.
May.
He just turned 31,
so
right?
He just turned 31, so he will not. So
okay, so he'll be 30. Next year, he's 31. If you signed him to a 4-year deal, it's 31, 32, 33, 34. You like 4 years?
I'll do 4 years. I'll do 4 years. Shoot for 5.5 per. I'd settle at 6.
The other thing about Ekholm, he's been a great bargain, right? The contract that that is winding down at the end of this season is one of the best contracts ever signed, right? Just like Yossi's was right before, right?
Mm-hmm.
They got huge value out of him. He could be a guy that says, you know what, you had me for a bargain before. I'm going to cash in. This is my last contract. I got to get what I can get. But you've heard Matthias Ekholm say, you know what, I'm never going to spend the money that I've already made. You know, he's one of those guys.
So they have
really benefited from the fact that their players or their agents maybe have not been all overly willing to fight for every dime they can get.
Yeah.
Right? Only a couple of them have really negotiated hard. And I would put Ellis and Johansson to a degree in that category, although deep down you knew both of those guys wanted to stay here. That's been a huge asset to the Predators, being able to
I do think Ellis
have
took a
guys
discount.
at the end of the day that they really wanted to stay here. So Ekholm and Forsberg might still be in that category.
Sure. All right, we'll come back. Final hour of the DDC next.
The MTSU Blue Raiders live here.
Down, Middle Tennessee. 3-ball, yes, sir.
And when you're in the borough, tune us in on 97.5.
In the end zone, caught, touchdown.
We are Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 News Code Red meteorologist Dan Guthrie. Lots of sunshine this afternoon. Cooler conditions thanks to that cooler air mass that moved in overnight. Highs upper 70s, no humidity.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Sounds Baseball is back. Join the fun at First Horizon Park as the team hosts 12 games over the next 2 weeks, including the Sounds game on the 4th of July, featuring a post-game fireworks extravaganza, courtesy of the Nashville International Airport. Catch Sounds Baseball at Hit City, where every night's a hit.
Are you a veteran with a VA home loan? Please stop and listen to this important message from Loan Pronto. You can refinance now and snag a new rate in the 2s. Yes, I said in the 2s. Hey, it's Willie Daunic. Wait, it gets even better. You can do all this with no appraisal, no income documentation, and no cash due at signing. Mortgage rates down some, and veterans need to act now. Loan Pronto specializes in VA streamlined loans. They can even cover all of your closing costs, and you will love their all-digital, no-hassle process. Most Loan Pronto loans close in 14 days. Call Loan Pronto now or go to loanpronto.com. They also have options where you can refinance and get cash out of your home's equity up to 100% of its value. Get cash to pay off credit cards or do that home improvement project. Call Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780. Loanpronto.com is the website. VA loans made simple. 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender. NMLS 1661781. Subject to lender approval. Not all loans eligible for zero-cost refi.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Willie Daunic here for Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Summer is here, and a time where many people do projects around the house. Are you struggling to open those old windows to enjoy the fresh air? It's a perfect time to take advantage of their great specials. Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville was voted Best Window Company in Nashville by House, Home, and Garden Magazine's Readers Poll, plus the Best Window Company in Williamson County by the Williamson homepage.
I recommend you contact Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Go to PellaNashville.com.
This is Stan Harrison, CEO of Apple Collision Centers. We understand that no one likes to deal with auto body repair and the inconvenience it becomes in your day-to-day life. I want to personally invite you to stop by and let our experienced staff see how we can help you make your vehicle look good as new. Apple Collision Center has 3 convenient locations, Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin, ready to serve you. Come by and see us or visit us online at applecollisioncenters.com.
Tune in every Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. for Nashville's own Jason Fitz with Jared Stillman and company. Fitz started his sports talk career right here on 102.5 The Game, and now he anchors shows for ESPN. Jason Fitz is brought to you by Blood Assurance. Give blood. Give local. Give life.
Zines First is the official sign company for 102.5 The Game. Go to sfnash.com.
Nashville's best sports talk, locally owned, home of our Nashville Predators. WPRT-FM Pegram, 97.5 Murfreesboro, WBUZ-HD2 Laverne, online at thegaynashville.com. We are
ESPN
102.5 The Game. Live from the Wholesaling Studios, powered by Rumbleon.com. It's time for Darren, Daunic, and Chase. With hosts Darren McFarland, Willie Daunic, and Chase McCabe. On Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game.
It's the 1 o'clock hour. Darren, Daunic, and Chase. ESPN 102.5 The Game. Chase McCabe, Willie Daunic, Darren McFarland, Elijah Campbell on the ones and twos behind the glass at our wholesaling studio, powered by Rumbleon.com. Tennessee about to hit the field and do battle at the College World Series in Omaha. Got it on here, Willie, and it's the UTs, Texas, Tennessee. Texas will be the home team, but this stadium looks awesome with the aerial view. All the fans in there. So we'll keep you updated on that. Bernard Pollard coming up at the bottom of the hour to talk about his weekend at the Nashville Superspeedway, plus get into some football with him. But Adam Vingan sent me this note, Willie, when he was listening to our Predators conversation. Ekholm is represented by the same agent as Arvidsson and Johansson, the same agency that represented Arvidsson and Johansson. So I don't know if that I don't know how much that matters, but at least there's
some of it is the attitude of the player to a degree.
Yeah,
because Arvidsson and Ekholm, the last go round, signed very team friendly deals. Johansson is not under that category.
Right.
Now, have they changed agents since then? I don't. That would be an interesting question. Are they represented by the same guy they always have been, or have they changed since they signed the last contract? That would be, I don't know the answer to that.
That same agency also represents Kyle Turris.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's obviously familiarity, and David Poyle, as long as he's been doing this, probably knows he's familiar with pretty much everybody. So
sure.
Tennessee, Texas is underway in Omaha. So we'll, again, keep you posted on that. But it's been an interesting conversation, though, because I guess I haven't done the deep dive into, you take a few weeks, you decompress, you figure out kind of, all right, now what's the direction of the team? But looking at the numbers, and capfriendly.com is a great website to do that. It is interesting to go, all right, well, if you take this away, but you add this and you give this guy a new contract, what it does. But the thing that we haven't gotten to is, if you make all these moves, what do you add? Are there some free agents that you think could potentially be available that fit what this team is doing or trying to do? How much do you want to add?
Well, let's also bring in Einstein theory of relativity. We do know that every team, almost every team, has similar issues. They got to deal with the expansion draft.
Yep.
They probably got a few contracts they don't like very much, and they want to get better. So there's going to be a lot of competition. There's going to be a lot of conversations. And I do think that this is something we have not introduced into this conversation today that I think might be in play. I'm not thrilled with this contract I've got over here. You're not thrilled with your contract for X player over there. Why don't we swap?
Yep.
Let's try it. Let's try it again. Let's try it again with a new leash on life for both of these guys. That could be in there. And maybe that's a way to say, okay, I needed some new blood. Maybe this guy fits better with the way we play. And the player we're trading fits better over there, where we're trading him to, maybe in the other conference, right? So you're protected that way. I do think that's something worth exploring. Because the bottom line is you're not going to get a whole lot back for a guy that's in that category. We saw it in the past, the Flames traded James Neal to the Oilers for Milan Lucic, right? In a deal that was just like that.
Like
Two guys that weren't fitting.
Yeah.
They weren't fitting for their current spots. They swapped. It's been better for both of them since then, right? But they still are in that category. A big contract, not a lot of results.
What's going to be the status with Neal? I mean, is he going to get bought out?
How many years left does he have on his deal?
He has, I want to say like 3.
Is there still 3? Wow.
No, actually, okay. No, he's got 2.
2.
Yep.
At how many?
5.75.
It's a little steep. How old is he now?
Nealer is 33.
33.
Going to be 34.
34 when?
He will be, because I remember us being like right around the same age. And I will be 34 on Friday. So he is in September. He will be 34.
Okay, so you're getting his age 34 and 35 seasons for $5.75 million.
Yeah. I think he'd be one that if they buy him out, if Edmonton buys him out, then teams would be interested.
On a cheap deal. Would there be a lot of teams interested?
Yeah, and the Predators may be in that category.
Could be.
He still lives here.
Oh, he would love to come back here. There's no question. That would be the best thing you have going for you, is that his desire to come back here would be a factor. He might even take a little bit less because you're getting paid. He's getting paid the money.
No, if I'm entertaining it at all, he's a 1 year, $1 million somewhere in there. That's what he is.
That's possible.
He is the Mike Ribeiro.
The only issue is the space. The only issue is the space. He's taking up a spot.
Right.
We're again, you got to get back to your big picture. You want a pathway for Tomasino to get in there and play. You want to keep room for these young players that are already carved out sort of a spot.
Sure.
To grow. So that's that balance you're trying to strike. But, I think, you brought it up, Hala. James Neal would be another guy that for the right price in that real need a veteran, don't want to pay a whole lot. That's the price range that those guys can be useful in the right thing to fill out your roster. But, what availability do you have? Exactly what slot is he going into? You've got the herd now, right? So your fourth line is spoken for, right? It's not like, hey, let's throw him in on the fourth line. Let's see what happens. The fourth line really on paper is already filled.
Yeah.
With what you want to do there. So it's more like the second and the third lines that you're tinkering with. Where does Tomasino fit? Is he third line? Can you get him in there on the top 6? Can he carry that load?
Well, at least it appears you're going to have a training camp and a preseason to be able to tinker with that. I mean, that's the other thing that I think is huge for John Hines, is that he's going to have the full training camp that you can work with these things. He hasn't had that since he's been here. He's had, the return to play camp for a week or two, a 10-day camp, but he hasn't had the full normal training camp to really work with these guys. And I think that will be hugely beneficial this fall when they do that.
I think so. And you're also starting. You would start the training camp on time, already knowing exactly what your role definition is for a lot of your young players, exactly what system you're playing, the roles of the assistant coaches. That's going to be valuable. But so let's just, I mean, I think you just, the forwards, it's a really interesting thing. Let's just say the herd is penciled in.
And Olivier is an RFA, just so you know.
Right. All of the herdsmen, Olivier, Jeannot, and Trennan, I think would be eligible in the expansion draft. But let's just say that
as with
those guys come back, as with Sissons. But let's just say you have those 4 for those 3 spots on the 4th line, in theory.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's just say that you have Forsberg is penciled in on your first line, and you have, let's just say, Johansson on the first line, in theory. He's in the mix. And if you want to say, well, Johansson's in Seattle, then Duchesne will be in the mix there, right? I'm just looking at circles.
Sure.
You have 12 circles that you're filling, plus really a 13th guy who's going to be in there, your 14th guy. Those guys are all going to be in there because of injuries. Granlund, Cunnin is in this picture somewhere.
You're talking about for the other winger on the top line?
Not necessarily on the top line, but I'm just looking at the 9 circles above. We have the herd on the 4th line, so we're looking at 9 circles.
Yeah.
So who are the 9? Who are the candidates for the 9? Tomasino, you'd like to be in there somewhere. Tolvanen would be somewhere. Forsberg, Johansson,
is
Arvidsson,
yeah,
Yarncroke. That's 6 right there. Who am I missing? Nick Cousins. That's 7.
Mm-hmm.
Under contract. Who else am I missing that's under contract for next year? Have I mentioned Granlund?
Yeah, you brought Granlund.
Okay, so that's assuming that he's signed. You have to sign him.
You have Johansson, Duchesne.
Now I've lost my notes where I wrote all this.
Forsberg, Arvidsson, Sissons, Cunnin, Grimaldi, Yarncroke.
Oh, Grimaldi
Cousins,
is another one I didn't have in there.
Olivier, Richardson's going to be gone. Tolvanen, Granlund, Haula. Haula's
a wild card
right now. I'd say
so
Rocco
there's some flexibility
gets
in there. There's some flexibility in there to bring in a new guy.
And here's another thing. If let's say let's play the scenario that Seattle doesn't take Johansson or Duchesne. I would say that there is a very, very good chance that somebody like Colton Sissons is who they look at. Colton Sissons is as we know,
attractive.
Very, very attractive because he's cheap, he's versatile, he can play just about anywhere you need him to play. Anywhere from, he's played second line, but third, fourth there, he is a versatile player. I think Yarncroke or Sissons are the ones that if Seattle's like, hey, not interested, we're just not going to take on that type contract.
Sure.
One of those 2 guys, for sure. And that obviously, that changes things too, because Sissons is the centerpiece of the herd. Yep. So do you put the 3 remaining together?
Well, I think you would find another guy. You could, Haula or somebody like that at a price that would not be that dissimilar from Sissons. You could find a guy to fill that role. If that happened, you'd hate to lose a guy like Sissons, but I think he is more replaceable than some other pieces there.
Yeah, potentially. So I think the thing about this and what this conversation has done for me is, as Peyton Manning looks on at in Omaha, the thing that this has done to me is just really opened up all the different scenarios that could play out. I mean, there are tons here, and it's almost a domino effect of, all right, whatever Seattle does, that makes this happen. So it's been a good discussion. We have had people weigh in on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and given their thought. Paul says the line between Tampa and Nashville is not fine at all, and there's a lot more teams than the defending champs on that list. If one doesn't think the roster is not getting boat raced by Colorado, Vegas, Tampa, Boston, etc., then they're wearing gold-colored glasses. So clearly,
right. Everybody would love to be in those shoes.
Mm-hmm.
There are a few teams that are juggernauts. Nashville is not going to be that next year. There's no way they can get there on paper with no matter what they do.
If you think
in most cases there, like Colorado had to be really bad for a while, and they made some really good moves, but it took a while. They took about 3 or 4 years where they were awful, right?
Yeah,
Nathan McKinnon was the first overall pick.
And everybody thought Patrick Waugh was getting it turned around, and then they brought in Bednar, and I remember
but even with McKinnon as a young player and stuff, they were bad
for
a while.
But you remember that series against
Tampa
the Predators.
Tampa Bay has been really, really good, and they have been bad for a while. That's kind of how they built where they are in a general sense. Okay, so what the text line is going with there, 100% true. But you're trying to be the best you can be.
Sure.
Right? I do not think I'm not ready to go for 4 or 5 years.
No.
In the toilet.
You would like to avoid that.
Restart everything. And some people might be willing to do that.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it wouldn't be easy to do even if you tried. And I think there's a middle ground of being able to retool.
Another texter says, if you think that Johansson has been a successful trade, you must be watching a different team than I am. Duchesne actually puts out more effort during the regular season. Both guys are way overpaid for the production that they provide. They are also a bad example for younger players. Duchesne should be traded and Johansson should be bought out. No chance that buyout.
Okay, buyout. How many years left on Johansson's contract?
Was it 4? Let's see. He's got 4. So
you're already doing it with Turris for the foreseeable future. That's costing you $2 million a year for a long time. I lost track of how many years. So you're gonna buy out Johansson? I don't think so.
No, not gonna happen. Not gonna happen at all. So I mean, entitled to your opinion. You can say they're both overrated, and in ways they are, but I've said it before. I think Johansson, I think at the time he made that trade, it was the right move. It has had success. Now, since he re-signed the contract, have you gotten everything you wanted out of him? No. But,
well, okay. So let's again present what's on the horizon for Duchesne and Johansson. Right now, you're not satisfied with getting bang for your buck. They tried everything with Turris before they resorted to buying him out. You do have to prepare for, hey, maybe the expansion, you don't like what it's going to take to get rid of one of those contracts. You have to prepare yourself on the other side we got to make the most of Duchesne and Johansson. They'll be back on the roster. We got to go about it a different way. We got to see if we can get more out of those guys. You might have to be prepared to do that. Because I just think after you've already played the card of buying out Turris, the buyout thing is just, there's no way.
Yeah.
Right?
No, definitely not going to happen. Top of the second, still no score. Tennessee with a man on and 1 out as things are underway against Texas in this elimination game in Omaha, the battle of the UTs. Darren, I think you're back with us. So watching this.
Why would a Texas outfielder, a right fielder, throw the foul ball to a Tennessee fan? I was amazed.
Did he get confused on the oranges?
Maybe
colorblind.
I mean, and it wasn't a kid; it was a grown man, and he's got a UT. He's decked out in UT orange and a foul ball down the right field line, and he tosses the ball to the UT fan.
And they are different. I mean, one is a burnt orange. One is, I've heard it called pumpkin.
Well, if you can't tell the difference on a sunny day in Omaha, then you're colorblind. So maybe, I don't know, maybe the right fielder's colorblind.
We know some people that are colorblind.
Yeah.
It happens. Maybe he just saw the tee and he could not, in his eyesight, could not differentiate the shades of orange.
I just thought for sure he would shake off that fan because he was right on the wall and he's like, come on, give me the ball. And I thought he was like, nah, man. You got the wrong orange.
Yeah, he's focused on other things.
Go give it to a kid.
Focus on other things. So
big game right now. Tennessee's
in a good spot.
Yeah, first and second, 1 out. Threatening here in the second inning. Looks like a gorgeous day there, gorgeous day here. We're going to have Bernard Pollard coming up at the bottom of the hour. We'll talk about his experience at the Nashville Superspeedway on Sunday in the flag stand. Pretty cool as he waved the flag for the Ally 400. And then we'll see what Tennessee can do right here. First time ever in this spot in the College World Series. Oh, that's a blast. That's down the line. That's fair. That's going to plate 1. And what will it be? First, second, third, 1 out? Yep. Second, third, 1 out. They plate 1-0 Tennessee. Still in business. Another base hit like that, they'll plate 2. So we'll see where this is going. We'll come back. Bernard Pollard on the other side. We'll talk about his experience at the Nashville Superspeedway, something I think I would like to do, but I'm not real sure. We'll find out how his nerves were hanging out over those cars over the track. We'll do that next here on Darren, Daunic, and Chase, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Listen to us talk sports out of our app. That's a heck of an investment.
How cool was that story?
Single.
They're out shooting teams.
I think he's a good player.
Day.
Okay, good talk.
Just search The Game Nashville in your app store and download today. And keep it locked on Nashville's best sports talk. ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Hey, let's talk about Loan Pronto. Home loan rates are incredible right now. They're back down again. I've been telling you guys this a lot. Take advantage of what's out there. It's all the more reason to call Loan Pronto right now and get your new home loan. Lock in that rate of a lifetime. Call now. Take advantage of Loan Pronto's zero-cost refi program. You can snag a super low rate, no junk fees, no closing costs. And listen, you don't roll closing costs into your loan with Loan Pronto. They cover them for you. Even if you refinance last month or last year, consider doing it again because it's going to save you money. And it's such a non-hassle process. Loan Pronto has an all-digital process now. It's fast. It's easy. Most loans get closed in 2 weeks, and they don't even require an appraisal in most cases. So that's what you need to do right now. Call Loan Pronto now. Start the process before the rates spike again. Do it now. You can even skip your next 2 house payments. All you got to do is pick up the phone, 615-499-5780. 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. If your current mortgage rate starts with a 3, you need to act right now. 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender. NMLS 1661781. Subject to lender approval. Not all loans eligible for zero costs.
Goodyear knows the importance of keeping momentum as you head down the stretch. Momentum starts with movement. It's pulled from the air like a contested rebound. Momentum builds with steals and fast breaks, and is proven by deep threes as the shot clock expires. Momentum is how we change the game, and now it's time to discover where it can take us. Goodyear, more driven.
Lately, we've been getting a lot of calls and questions about acoustic wave therapy for the treatment of erectile dysfunction. This is a relatively new treatment for ED, but one we've been using for years. This is Kim for the Tennessee Men's Clinic, and if you're looking at acoustic wave therapy or any option to help your ED, it's worth a visit to check us out. Our wave therapy protocols use acoustic wave technology, but often also combine it with other treatments that can give most of our patients far higher satisfaction rates. There is no surgery nor any type of invasive procedures required. And while most clinics you hear about only offer sound wave treatments, with our urologist and provider's guidance, you can likely have sex the day after your appointment and experience fewer letdowns. With another one of our ED treatments, you can last up to an hour and a half, and our expertise in treating these issues means you'll get the results you want. So make your appointment today. We'll show you why our acoustic wave program is the better way to do wave therapy. Call us today at 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Visit our website to learn more, including side effects, treatments extra. Results vary.
Nashville's home for the NBA is 102.5 The Game and ESPN 94.9. Tune in for the biggest games every week. The place to bet the NBA is the all-new Twin Spires, now live in Tennessee. Download the Twin Spires app today.
312 Pizza Company is a proud sponsor of Nashville Sounds Baseball on ESPN Radio. Sheet Metal Workers Local 177 is looking for the next great skilled construction tradesman out there. Are you unhappy with your current situation and seeking a better opportunity? If you have prior years of experience and are getting overlooked, it's time to advance your career and start your journey with Smart Local 177. They offer great benefits and job opportunities that are waiting for you. Further your career in the construction trade industry at sheetmetal177.com or call 615-292-0587. An equal opportunity employer.
Tonight, the Nashville Sounds are back home at First Horizon Park to start a Game 6 series with the Charlotte Knights. Coverage begins at 6:50 on ESPN 94.9 and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, Nashville, this is Dan Lebitard. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Back here on Darren, Daunic, and Chase. Darren McFarland, Willie Daunic, Chase McCabe with you here on this gorgeous Tuesday afternoon. Elijah Campbell manning things back at our Wholesale Link Game Studios, powered by RumbleOn.com. He goes by CrushBoy31 on Twitter. Give him a follow. It's free and easy to do. He crushed it at the Nashville Superspeedway on Sunday for the Ally 400. We've talked about his gaining interest in the sport of NASCAR. And he got the opportunity, first cup race in our market in 37 years. We're now joined by Bernard Pollard, the man who was waving the flag. Bernard, how the heck was the experience?
Wow. It was, first and foremost, how y'all doing? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great.
The experience was, I talked about it a little bit yesterday to a few people. That was by far the best experience, one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. And wow. I mean, I'm not blowing smoke. That was awesome. It was truly amazing.
So I have said, when we've talked about this, that's something I've never been able to do. It's something that definitely interests me. I do have a big fear of heights. And I'm just not sure if you have to look down. I mean, you can't like look away. I'm just not sure staring down at the concrete surface over 39 cars, whatever it was on Sunday. I'm not sure it's something I would be really comfortable with. Did you have any issues on that front?
Well, first and foremost, I'm scared of heights and water. Now, I do shower, but I'm scared of pools and oceans and lakes and all the other stuff. But it was, I mean, my whole mindset was just go and attack it. I literally found out in Chicago, and I kind of put it out there, and I didn't know. I was telling the God's honest truth, but I did not know it was in my briefings. But I found out in Chicago that I was waving a green flag, and so it was news to me. When I saw it on Twitter, and so I'm blown away. So we fly back, and I'm end up talking to Andrea, the CMO of Ally, and she was like, "Yeah, you waving Ally race," and she was like, "Yeah, you waving a green flag," and I was like, "What?" Like, so you know, when I got there, the biggest part, like I had I got to drop my name. I had a Lululemon, my joggers on. So when I'm going up, you know, my booty crack, the top of my booty crack was out just a little bit. But there was all kind of other booty cracks I was out when I was coming down the bleachers. So I'm pretty sure they felt the air. But when I climbed up, it was crazy. It's scary. I got up there. It was mad scary. And then one of the officials told me, he go, "Hey, this is one of the tallest stands, you know, when you talk about tracks, this is one of the tallest ones that are out there." So he was like, "You ain't gonna get too much taller than this." So, you know, I couldn't look down. I could not even look at the planes. I couldn't look at the men and women parachuting in. I literally kept my head down, kept my hand on that rail, because I'm thinking, always in the movies when something go wrong, the black people die first, and I was the only black one up there. So, I'm sitting up there, man, I'm looking like, man, these cars going by, we shaking, and I was truly scared, and I still am. I would never do it again, but it was so awesome. I'm so happy that I did it. Now, getting down was a beast because I had to sit down on that hot metal and then try to turn around. But it was cool, though, man. The fans cheered me on when I got down. I was embarrassed that I showed them I was scared, but I didn't care either because I was scared.
Wow, that you just painted the picture for radio. That was fantastic. By the way, we did the show, Bernard, Friday from the track, and we did it up in basically the penthouse of the press box, which is up on the 6th floor. And then I realized before I got there, there's only one elevator that goes up there that far. The other ones only go to 5. And I didn't realize that at the time. And I couldn't. And so I just jumped on the elevator to go do the show Friday morning. And it only took me to 5, which means what? I had to then walk up the stairs. And, I mean, Bernard, I'm like you. I can't do it any better than you. Luckily, no one saw me. No one. It was just me, myself, and I. But I told Chase when I got up there and got in the press box, I had to go to the restroom. I'm pretty sure some warm liquid went down my leg. And
you didn't even go all the way up. You didn't even go to the spotter stand.
No, I didn't even go to the spotter stand. But it was just nerve-wracking going up steps from the 5th floor to the 6th floor.
Yeah. I believe it, brother. I'm with you. I understand your pain. I'm not I'm not judging you.
I could feel, by the way, when you described your experience, I could feel like me having the same feelings if I was in that flag stand with you. I mean, that was great. So, how much instructions are there? I mean, how much do you have to go through like a course? Like, how much are they telling you how this is going to work and what to do? Was that a big production or no?
Well, no, it wasn't a big production. I literally, when I got up, off the ladder and up in the tower, the guy said, "Look," he said, "do not show these drivers that." He said, "if they see a little bit of green, they taking off." So I'm like, "Oh Lord!" So I'm just like, I'm about to mess this whole thing up. Like, they're gonna have to restart. But so he was just like, "Just keep it low." He said, "and I will tap you." I said, "Bro," he said, at first he told me, he said, once they get inside of that, the insurance, I think it was the Gecko
Geico
insurance, Geico. I said Geico.
Yep.
The Geico insurance box. He said, "You go." He said, he was like, "That's when you raise the flag." I said, "Look, bro," I said, "I'm gonna mess that up." I said, "All I need you to do is tap me on my back. As soon as you tap me," I said, "I'm gonna start waving it." And so, they came around, he tapped. I started waving the flag, but it's the 43 freaking car messed everything up because they had to go to a caution as soon as I waved the flag. And the guy he said, "Hey, you can stay in again and wave the green flag on to restart them." I said, "Hell no, I'm going down." So
my commitment is fulfilled.
So much fun.
You're like, one time. I don't have 2 in me. What is it like? So where I parked on Sunday, I left because I did not want to be caught in all the traffic. So I left. I snuck out a little bit early before the end of the race because I didn't want to be sitting there for hours. But the lot that I was in was basically right there on that back stretch, on that fence. Mm-hmm. And I decided before I got in the car and left, I wanted to go experience that. And just there, and there's a gap, obviously. I'm not like leaning up against the fence on the back wall, but there's a gap. There's like basically a walkway where they can drive carts through or whatever. But I'm pretty darn close to that back stretch. And so they're coming back there full throttle. And when all those cars go by, one, I'm glad I had sunglasses on because you get hit with rubber in the face, rubber in your hair. Right. And just that force, it's unbelievable. What was it like up there? How about feeling that force up, hanging out over the track as all those cars go zipping by? What was that like?
So it was impressive when I was up in the tower. The guy said, he was like, "Hey, anybody that got hats on?" Because my best friend was up with me. He came up so Ally, the ladies that were with us for Ally Racing, they need to bring the earplugs. So I went up there with no earplugs. And so the guy goes, "Hey, you got earplugs?" I go, "No." He goes, "You need earplugs." So they ran and got me earplugs. The ladies go, "We're not bringing that up." So my best friend ended up bringing it up, and he stayed up there with us. So, we're I put the earplugs in. When I went down, I told him, he said, "You can stay up here for 5 laps." I said, "Sir," I said, "I'm good. I'm going down." So I try to stay at the fence, right at the finish line, to let I try to bear it, and I say, I'm gonna sit through this, let them go by, and I'm gonna stand by the fence. Man, I had my earplugs in. The cars went by. I literally could not. I couldn't stand. I ran back and had to plug my ears that much more because it was so loud, and the force of the cars. It was like I said, one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. Now, it was scary with some parts, but just all the stuff that I've learned, just talking to the drivers, to the pit crews, to the crew chiefs, to the spotters, to the fans, I can't, honestly, it was awesome. I'm still trying to digest it today.
Okay, so I got to ask the question, what's next? Bernard, what's next? I mean, you're hook, line, and sinker, man. You're in. You're in now. You've done this. There's got to be a next. Is it the pace car? Is it getting in a ride along for a couple laps? Like, what's the next step?
Yeah, I mean, the next step for me is just to continue to learn. I'm one of those players. I'm one of those people where I love to learn. So I literally just put out a tweet. Because I want to know about older drivers. I want to know about the guys, the OGs that race, and of course, I'm with Ally. I do work with Ally, and I hate to use the word influencer because I can't stand that. But I'm an influencer with Ally as far as social media and dealing with Zoom calls and dealing with a lot of the back, the behind the scenes stuff. So I'm doing stuff with them, but I'm literally just soaking it all in. And I had an opportunity to go to Mr. Hendrick's RV on Sunday, and he literally just taught me in that short amount of time, in the 25 minutes I think I was in his RV with him, just talking racing and the history of it and the drivers, and I'm blown away. And so I'm going to Charlotte, and I'm going to the headquarters, and we're going to I'm going to learn. I'm just going to learn more. I just want to dive into this thing and just learn about the sport. I want to learn about the races. I want to learn, why is this sport so awesome, but why is this sport out there and I didn't know about it until 35 years old? You know what I mean? Like, I understand where I came up from. I get that. But I'm looking like so many kids like me, they need to know about this. They need to understand that this is a sport that's freaking amazing and can do great things for you. If you're not a driver, you could be a part of the pit crew. If you won't be a part of the pit crew, you could be as a spotter. Like, it's freaking awesome. And that's what I want to dive into it.
Let me just tell you, from walking around pit row, and Chase, you know this because you've seen it too, the evolution of the pit crews today. And I was, like I said, walking up and down, hanging out at Kyle Larson's pits or Joey Logano's pits or whatever. These guys look like guys that you were trying to tackle in the NFL. These guys are humongous guys in these pit crews now. They look like football players. They look like they all played college football or maybe some level of pro football for a little bit, and now they're in a pit crew. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. These guys are straight athletes, like 6'5", like 280, jumping over the wall. I was like, whoa. Did you get a chance to meet any of these pit crews?
I did. I did. And I mean, for me, it was amazing because Tig, who was actually an old teammate out of Clemson, that the Tennessee Titans ended up bringing in, I think it was my first or second year. He's a part of the pit crew, one of the pit crews. And I mean, we just honestly, we took pictures and just talked. And man, I was just talking to him, talking to the pit crew with the 48 team. Those dudes, what I told a lot of people yesterday, you don't realize it, but them cats, the lineman, for a guy that played lineman at a D3 school, that's almost his position, with the pit crew. He's lugging that big fuel, the gas tank, and putting it in. And, you got another guy that played running back, and he has to lead the way and pick up different things. You got another guy that played linebacker, and another guy that played, he played, I forget, he played H-back and different things. That he's the jack man. And how that, like, the transition from them off the football field to the pit crew, it's almost the same. And they work just like a team. Like, the crew chief is like the offensive coordinator. And then, you got the guy that got to put the body of the car and keep the technology and everything else going. He's the defensive coordinator. And you got the overseer. Dude, blown away. I'm blown away by all of it. And this is why I say this sport needs to be it needs to be in these young kids. It needs to be in front of them. They need to see it. They need to see that this is an option as well. And I'm happy and I'm blessed because for my kid, it's an option. My 5-year-old, he wants to be a racer. So we're literally putting him in go-kart and going to let him race. You know what I mean? That wasn't the case for me. That wasn't the case for me growing up or my siblings. It wasn't the case for us. So I'm blessed to be able to put my son in that position. You want to race? Let's go. Let's go get it. My daughter wants to race. So I'm just truly just amazed at all of it.
We're talking to Bernard Pollard, former Titan safety, NFL safety now, NASCAR enthusiast as well, and he waved the green flag at the Nashville Super Speedway. Now, you mentioned your partnership with Ally. I really enjoyed the videos that you did with Dale Jr. and Jeff Gordon as they competed over the paint scheme that Alex Bowman ran in the Ally 400. Beautiful looking race car, the neon colors that was Dale Jr.'s design. But what was it like working with those guys on that and being a part of it?
It was interesting because, I mean, for me, I'm the type of dude, I'm not starstruck. I don't like to bother people, but being in this position with Ally, they're letting me, I'm just a dude that I love to have fun. I love to laugh. I love to break the ice. But I want it to be a good time. So with a lot of racers, a lot of drivers, they're kind of calm, cool, collected dudes. Like the first freaking legend I got an opportunity to meet was Jimmy Johnson. And he's a dude from Cali who doesn't really talk much, but I looked at him, I was like, bro, we gonna laugh. I'm loud. It's okay. I'm not, and so we broke the ice with all of that. So talking with Dale, talking with Jeff was just a good time, just to be able to hear the way that them dudes compete from the way that we competed on the football field. It's the same. It's almost the same, and I mean, they were able to keep that friendly competition and that, keep all of that stuff going within, trying to create a paint scheme and being a part of that. You seeing kind of what they're doing with the sport after, post-career. You're seeing all of that. And for me, I learned a lot from both of them because they're both great businessmen. And, for Jeff, like me and him kind of talk a little more about, doing different things. And honestly, like, just once again, I'm blown away at how it's done. And I'm just in awe of it. But then at the same time, I'm shocked because I'm looking like I just learned this at 35, 36 years old. And I could have known this from a long time ago, but, I'm just happy to be a part of it. But them cats they're one of a kind, man, and they're really good dudes. Like I can honestly say that I can discern, from a guy that's just a D-head and then a dude that's just out there and he's just a genuine good dude. So it's been a lot of fun to have not come across one of them guys yet.
The thing with me, and we've talked about this before, I've been a NASCAR fan my entire life, but they are now trying to get more fans involved in their sport, get new fans and not just your stereotypical NASCAR fan, which I think is amazing. I saw Alvin Kamara walking around in the pits. He is working with NASCAR now to help diversify the fan base. You and your work. I mean, this is where I guess about a year ago is when you really got involved and got interested in it, when it came back after the pandemic. How much of a change have you seen in just that short amount of time as the sport continues to grow?
Well, I've seen a lot of change, and I want to start with NASCAR. Them opening this thing up and saying, you know what, we see flaws. We see some flaws that we've had in our sport. We want to change them. And so I think that's the biggest thing when you can see a big organization or a big, network, see that, understand it, and say, let's do something about it. And I think by them even opening up and saying that and being the one to do it with, hiring, certain people to open up doors for, certain groups, because, one of the biggest things is, once again, me growing up, a lot of people told me black people didn't like NASCAR. Black people didn't drive. They didn't accept black people. Of course, you're going to have your small percentage of people that are going to be ignorant and say certain things. That's a small percentage of people. And I was at the race, and when I tell you I didn't come across, I was in the RV parks, and they had 6 to 8 or whatever RV parks. I'm in there man, people invite me in their RVs. And so look, the way I grew up, when I go in somebody's house, I take my shoes off. I'm going to RVs, taking my shoes off. Everybody I'm like, what you doing? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going, this your house. And so, it's just a respect thing. But I mean, people, food, ping pong, cornhole, man, they were so open and so honest and just loving. And I mean, this is what is needed. They need to see a player like me, a guy like me that didn't grow up, that wants to know about the sport. That's what they want. That's what they love. I think with anybody, I don't care what color you are, when you come in with this certain attitude and you want to be a certain way and disrespectful to people, or you think you high and mighty, anybody's going to come back against that. But I think, for me and for other people, NASCAR is trying to open up that door for everybody. Whatever color you are, you come in, enjoy the sport, look at it, and I think bringing guys like Kamara, bringing guys like myself, or other people in to try to bridge the gap, help bridge the gap. They're doing a phenomenal job, and it's been so much fun.
We love the passion. You always bring the passion. Fantastic job over the weekend. Great job today. Continue to have an awesome summer, and we'll check in with you down the road, Bernard. Thanks for doing this.
All right, guys. Thank you for having me. Y'all take it easy.
At CrushBoy31 on Twitter. Give him a follow. Love his passion every time he comes on the show. And, boy, he brought it on Sunday, and you could tell he was passionate about the experience he just took in. I want to talk to you about, I'm passionate about my friends over at Cool Springs MD. In fact, I'll be heading there tomorrow after the show. And maybe you've tacked on some unwanted pounds that you would love to shed. Well, they've got programs and products and people that can get you going back in the right direction. We all know as adults that's happened at some point. Maybe you're in that window right now, especially with the summer months. You'd like to get rid of a little bit, some pounds before maybe you put on a swimsuit or whatever. Talk to them. They can help you. Dr. Jeffrey Lodge is the board certified physician over there. His wife Daphne is the registered nurse, and their experienced staff can help you in a variety of. So whether it's rejuvenation, your appearance is important. It's important to me, should be important to you, and it gets tougher as we age. But you can sit down with that experienced staff and discuss PRP, hair removal, Botox. They do it all. Hormone therapy. Maybe you've been feeling off lately. Haven't been feeling yourself. Well, BHRT, testosterone, estrogen, they can talk to you about that. Get your levels checked. Maybe they've dipped to an all-time low that could affect you in some or all of those areas where you're feeling off, you don't have any drive, no energy, or you have mood swings. All that can be affected. They've got a state-of-the-art facility out there in Cool Springs at 1642 Westgate Circle. If you don't believe me, go experience it for yourself, and you can do that by scheduling an appointment or a consultation by picking up the phone and dialing this number, 615-283-7291. That's 283-7291. Or you can learn everything about them by going to their website, coolspringsmd.com.
From all-day talk, the good shooters, you notice, because their shot looks different. The puck just seems to be on the goalie quicker. To the biggest games.
Open man is Devontae Smith, touchdown.
Nashville's best sports talk is always at your fingertips. Just search the game Nashville in your app store and download today. And keep it locked on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 News Code Red meteorologist Dan Guthrie. Lots of sunshine this afternoon. Cooler conditions thanks to that cooler air mass that moved in overnight. Highs upper 70s, no humidity.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face truck today.
The ultimate social experience is coming to Nashville. My Wine Society presents Blended Festival, August 13th and 14th at First Horizon Park, with live performances by Cascade, Lil Jon, Matt Stell, Blanco Brown, Bryce Vine, and more. Enjoy Blended's massive 100-foot wine tasting tent and indulge in culinary activations by Nashville's hottest chefs. There's also Blended's relaxing wellness lounge, VIP village, and a whole lot more. Get Blended. Tickets on sale now at blendedfestival.com. Use promo code GAME at checkout for 10% off your ticket.
Houston Clinic Orthopedics is conveniently located where you live and work. With over 10 locations in Nashville and surrounding communities, Houston physicians specialize in spine, joint replacement, knee, hip, upper extremity, as well as many other orthopedic conditions. At Houston Clinic Orthopedics, they are strictly adhering to all CDC guidelines for both their patients and staff safety. To experience world-class orthopedic care and to see a list of all Houston physicians and specialties, visit their website at tn.houston.com and book your appointment online today.
All right, we have goat yoga lattes coming up in the yoga room. Hey, Regan, can you go
At Finley's Fitness, personal trainers shouldn't have to personally do everything.
Engage that core. That class started 2 minutes ago. I am late. Hey, Dylan, can you...
Indeed can help them hire the people they need.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job, you immediately get your short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job criteria. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Robbie Stanley.
I feel like this could be the start of something special.
Joe Rexrode.
I think it means that we've got, like, the toilet bowl competition is very strong.
Get your morning started with Robbie and Rexrode every weekday from 6 to 10 on Nashville's best sports talk. ESPN 1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app. If you've missed any of today's show, just search Darren, Daunic, and Chase on Apple, Spotify, or on your favorite podcast platform.
3-run tater for Texas. Nice. It was a bomb. Longhorns leading 3-2 over the Vols in the third inning, but Tennessee is cooking. They are in business. Bases loaded, nobody out, down 3-2.
Hell of a bunt to load them. That was a great bunt. That's what it was. It loaded up the bases.
Tell you what, I thought Vanderbilt had a great bunt last night, right down the line, and I mean almost on the chalk. And I thought the NC State third baseman made an unbelievable play to barehand it and just throw a bullet to first and get him out. I thought it was a perfectly placed bunt, but it was a great play by the third baseman. But yeah, a bunt right now has loaded them up for the Vols. Nobody out, down 3-2 to Texas in the third. Tonight will be Mississippi State and Virginia in Omaha. So we'll see. Loser goes home. Somebody's going to join Arizona, either Tennessee or Texas. Arizona first to get shown the door at the College World Series. The loser of this game is also going to be headed back home. Is it going to be Knoxville or is it going to be Austin? Oh, nice play. Oh, wow.
That wasn't good.
Wow. Huge play for Texas. Rips it down third base. Third baseman comes home for the force at home. On to first. Double play. Second, third, 2 outs. Nothing plated. That was a lefty, too, going to the third baseman. Almost a bad throw.
It's so frustrating when you have man on third, less than 2 outs, or bases loaded, no outs, and something like that happens. It seems like it would be so easy. Like I was watching last night after the Vanderbilt game was over, Mets Braves, 1-0 Braves in the 7th inning, last inning, because it was 2 7-inning games. Line drive to the third baseman, almost got a game-ending double play, and then they got the next guy out. Bases loaded, 1 out, didn't score. But it happens a lot. These pitchers are good.
5-2-3 double play. Yikes. Oof. We'll see if but a base hit right here will give Tennessee the lead back. So we'll see. With 2 outs because they'll be off and running. But right now, second, third, 2 outs. Third inning, 3-2 Texas. Looks like fly ball, inning over. Wow. Bases loaded, nobody out. They get nothing. That may haunt them. We'll see if it comes back to bite them. That will do it for our show today. Enjoy